Hey, what's up, guys? Chris Nelson here. It is Thursday, January 4th, 2024, and we got a town hall tonight with Ron DeSantis on CNN. Trump is too chicken shit to meet him on the debate stage, but he doesn't have to, Chris. They might be mean to Trump. This would be a travesty. He should not have to. Let me tell you something. Ron DeSantis shared a based ad when this campaign first started. Okay. Hold on just a second. I got to switch over. All right. This based ad should have been playing, and ads like this should be playing every single week.
Will do everything in my power to protect. I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
But Caitlyn Jenner would have walked.
Oh, wait. All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. My line was turned down there. Okay. Based ads like this should be playing every single week. Okay. I'll play it on the commercial. Here's the town hall. Let's go.
The first contest of the 2024 presidential race is now just 11 days away. We are live at Grandview University for a special night of back-to-back CNN town halls. I'm Caitlin Collins, and tonight, two of the leading Republican candidates are here. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. They'll take questions from Iowa voters, setting the stage for their first one-on-one presidential debate live on CNN here in Iowa next week. We're giving both candidates opportunities to make their closing arguments to Iowans as they battle against one another and against the frontrunner in this race, former President Donald Trump.
Where
First
is
up
he?
tonight,
Where is the
Governor Ron
frontrunner?
DeSantis, who is
Where is
aiming
the
for a strong
chicken?
showing in Iowa with the support of the
Alleged
state's
frontrunner,
governor,
more like
Tim
it.
Reynolds. He'll answer questions directly from Iowans on the issues that will help determine who wins the Republican nomination, and I will have some questions of my own. In the audience here with me tonight are voters who say that they plan to participate in the Iowa Republican caucuses, both registered Republicans and voters who plan to register as Republicans. To find tonight's questioners, we cast a wide net, soliciting help from various organizations, including business groups, farm associations, parent groups, young professional organizations, religious groups, and also conservative advocacy organizations. Guests of the DeSantis campaign and Grandview University are also here in the audience tonight, but they won't be asking any questions. We've asked everyone here to be respectful to each other and to Governor DeSantis, so voters in the room and you at home have a chance to hear from the candidate himself. Now, please welcome Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see based DeSantis tonight. Come on, based DeSantis. Let's go.
Great to be back at Grandview. Thanks, CNN. So I heard the other day someone say that Caitlin Collins had some basketball skills. Now, I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but I know in Iowa they have a Caitlin Clark. So I just wanted to give you this as a memento. And just respectfully, if the game's on the line and we need a buzzer beater, I'm going with Clark over Collins. So
Rest assured, her free throws and her threes are much better than mine, Governor. But thank you so much for that. Thank you. And good luck to her playing against Rutgers on Friday night. Governor, thank you for being here. Obviously, as you know, just 45 minutes away from here at Perry High School earlier today in Perry, Iowa, there was a shooting. A sixth grader was killed. 5 others were injured, including a school administrator, on their first day back after winter break. We've gotten some questions from voters here in the audience about this tonight. So first tonight, to start off, I want to turn to Jennifer Lemon, who is here. She is a child care provider from Des Moines, a Republican who says that she is undecided in this race. Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Hi there. How are you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. In light of the shooting today, and without taking away any gun rights, what would you do to address the issue?
Well, first, our hearts go out to the people of Perry. I've been able to spend a lot of time in Dallas County. It's great folks there. To have these kids go back the first day after Christmas break, this is a tragedy. To lose a sixth grader My wife and I, we have a first grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler. And so when you send your kids to school, you know, you want to be focused on the academics and the activities. The physical safety should not be an issue with our schools, and parents need to have confidence in that. So I think what we'll do is support efforts like I did in Florida. When I became governor, it was on the heels of the worst school shooting that we had had in the history of the state, and I was charged with implementing reforms to be able to provide security for schools. So we've done everything but like school resource officers, help with hardening, but also help identify students that are exhibiting really problematic behavior. You know, one of the tragedies that came out of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas back in Florida was that before people even had identified who did it, most of the people in that community already knew who did it because there were so many warning signs. We're getting more information about what happened in Perry, but it seems like this student had some serious problems. We do things like behavioral threat assessment to take this seriously, so that there can be an intervention. If they're committing criminal acts, to hold them accountable. And if they have mental health problems, you got to deal with it.
Governor, I'm glad that you brought up the laws that are in Florida, because right now a state senator from Florida wants to eliminate that mandatory 3-day waiting period to buy a rifle or a shotgun in your state. That is one of the changes that, if it was eliminated, would undo something that was put in place after the Parkland shooting. Do you support eliminating that waiting period?
I think that the background check should be instant. You have the thing, somebody goes, you can run them, and you can see if there's a criminal conviction. If they're a felon, then obviously they ping. If they have mental health adjudication, then of course they're going to ping. But I think you want it to be instant background checks. And so that's what I support.
So you don't support the 3-day waiting period?
I think it should be instant.
You'd be okay with eliminating it?
I think it should be instant background checks. This is somebody that people that go, law-abiding citizens exercising their rights. You shouldn't have to be on a mandatory waiting period. Instant checks will do the job.
I want to turn to another voter and some other issues that are here on the minds of Iowa voters tonight. This is Kurt Ellis. He is an operations coordinator from Grimes, Iowa, a Republican who says he is undecided. Kurt, thank you for being here. What's your question for the governor?
Good evening, Governor. Donald Trump is leading by significant margins in polling, particularly here in Iowa. What do you consider a winning performance in Iowa, and what is your strategy past Iowa?
Well, Kurt, nobody's leading until you guys get to vote.
That's
right.
I
still believe in the process. I've gone to all 99 counties. I've shown up. I've answered questions. You'll see me on the debate stage next week here in Iowa on January 10th. Donald Trump's not willing to show up on the debate stage. Has he come to communities and answered questions?
Coward.
Has he gone to all 99 counties? Heck, has he even gone to 9 counties? That's not the way to do it. So voters get to make this decision. Don't let the media pick the candidate. Let voters decide. And this is a long process. I've put in a lot of time in Iowa because I think doing 99 counties is the way it's done here. People want to be able to ask you questions. They want to be able to shake your hand. So I've done it because that's what Iowans expect, to do the full Grassley. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff in the subsequent states. You got to win a massive amount of delegates, and we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be competing, and it's going to be a long, arduous process, but Iowa starts it off. You guys get to make the decision. Don't let the media or the pundits make the decision. Vote for who you think could be the best president of the United States. And I'm here to tell you the choice, I think, is clear. Donald Trump is running for his issues. Nikki Haley's running for her donors' issues. I'm running for your issues. I'm running for your family's issues, and I'm running to turn this country around.
Yeah,
Governor,
perhaps Trump doesn't have enough energy.
You mentioned how
Less
the
energy
former
than Jeb
president
Bush.
is leading significantly in polls. I know you dismissed some of those polls and say you want to see what happens on the 15th. You just referenced what you believe Trump is running on this time. You say his own issues. And you said before that you don't think he's the same candidate that he was in 2016. What should voters in Iowa know about what you think a second Trump presidency, a second Trump term would look like if they do pick him over you?
Well, so here, look, we saw what happened in the midterms in 2022. Remember, they said that this was going to be a red wave. You had a red wave in Iowa and Florida because Governor Reynolds led and because I led, and we won historic victories. The rest of the Republicans in the Senate and House crashed and burned. Donald Trump's candidates, handpicked candidates, lost because the Democrats have a playbook that they can run. It was effective in 2018. It was effective in 2020, 21, 22, and even this year in 2023. So don't repeat that. The Democrats want Trump to be the candidate. They are going to talk about all the legal stuff. January 6th, that will be what the election will be about. You don't want it to be a referendum on Trump and the past. You want it to be a referendum on Biden's failures, on our positive vision for this country. I offer that. And oh, by the way, you need somebody that can serve 2 terms. You're going to go in there as a lame duck president, even if you could get elected. I don't think that that's how it works there. We need a change agent in Washington. We need somebody that's going to go in there, actually unwind the bureaucracy, which Trump promised to do and didn't do. We need a president that's going to stop the border invasion by building a wall, which Trump promised to do but didn't do. We also need somebody that's going to be willing to deport illegal aliens. Donald Trump said he would in 2016, he'd have the largest deportation in history. He deported less than Barack Obama did in Obama's first term. I will actually get the job done, and I will hold the Mexican drug cartels accountable for the carnage that they're causing in this country. They are killing tens of thousands of our fellow Americans. When I'm president, we're going to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. Donald Trump had an opportunity to do that. He didn't do it. I will.
Well, Governor, I'm glad you brought up immigration because we actually
There we
have a
go. He's
question
got
on
no
immigration
energy.
from our
Low
next
energy,
questioner.
Don.
This is Joseph Howe. He is a business consultant from Des Moines who is the former Iowa Libertarian state chair. He now says he is a Republican and he's undecided. Joseph?
Yeah, thanks for being here. Governor, almost all illegal migrants crossing the border carry a backpack or bag, and very few are cartel members. If you order to shoot on sight, now accepting women and children, how many innocent people are you willing to have killed to kill one low-level drug mule?
Well, Joseph, thanks for that. But I take issue with the premise of that.
Thanks.
When you're conducting military operations, you're not just doing that willy-nilly. I'm the only one running for president that actually has served overseas in a war in the Iraq campaign. They didn't wear uniforms. You had to positively identify. People would have hostile actions, hostile intent, and then you would be able to engage. So it's going to be the same type of thing. It's not going to be, and it's anything like we do even in domestically when a police officer would engage. So it's not going to be done the way the media is saying it's going to be done. But I will tell you this, I've been down there. The cartel will cut holes in the actual border wall, and they will come through with fentanyl. So my question to you and to other critics who don't say, how many fentanyl deaths are enough? Are we just supposed to sit here and let this happen? I think a president not only has a right, I think you have a responsibility to fight back against these people. I am sick and tired of seeing the carnage in this country. And in my travels through Iowa, I've met angel parents, people that have lost kids to fentanyl overdose. And a lot of times, these are not drug addicts. These are maybe a college student that is stressed out during exams, so they buy a pill thinking it's going to help them get through the night, and it turns out it's laced with fentanyl. That could be enough to poison that student to death. And so this is shattering families. It's shattering communities. The people in D.C., they just shrug their shoulder. They could care less about what's going on. Well, I care about this. I care about defending American communities and American families. And so, yes, they have killed more Americans than all the terrorist groups in this world combined over the last 5 years. When is enough enough?
But you do think you would have the intelligence to do that?
Yes,
I think that's the
absolutely.
question.
Absolutely. Yes. Look, we have surveillance, we have drones, we have intel, we have a whole bunch of stuff. This is something, it's a matter of will. We can do it if we want to do it. And I would note, I was the candidate that came out to do it. Now you have other candidates that are saying they want to do this. Some had opportunities to do this in the past. Others had not even supported things like border walls in the past. So we've been a leader on this issue. We're going to continue to do it. But here's the thing as Republicans. How many years have we been talking about the border in various iterations? It's been going on my entire adult life. Isn't it about time we had a president that solved it once and for all?
Can I
I
ask
will
you,
solve it
Governor?
once and for all.
Yeah.
A question on immigration as well, because this is something that you've said. You said that you would take action to end the idea of birthright citizenship for kids of undocumented immigrants. Does that mean ending birthright citizenship? What is that? What exactly does
Right.
that mean?
So the 14th Amendment obviously applies to U.S. citizens. It was meant to overturn Dred Scott versus Sanford, which is one of the worst Supreme Court cases in history, to ensure that African Americans were citizens, in spite of what Dred Scott had said, the decision. Now, it was never the intent to say you come illegally across the border, have a kid, and all of a sudden the kid is an American citizen. That creates an anchor in the society so that you then can't deport the illegal aliens who came in. It's an incentive to come illegally. That was not the intention of that. So yes, we support American citizens, obviously. But when people are coming illegally, they do not have a birthright at that point. That'll get litigated by the Supreme Court. But I'm convinced the court has never actually addressed that issue. And I think we would win on the law because that was not what the 14th Amendment was intended to do.
That would be an executive order, and then you expect that it would be legally challenged?
Sure, of course it would be legally challenged.
Okay. I do want to go to...
And by the way, on this,
go ahead.
Donald Trump ran in 2016 saying he would do exactly what I just said. Did he ever sign his name to an executive order when he promised the voters that he was going to do it?
No.
Never signed it.
He's a
What
liar.
is he now telling people in Iowa this time around? He says he's going to do the same thing that he didn't do the first 4 years. I mean, sometimes you can say Congress stymied you, all this other stuff. All he had to do was put his John Hancock on a piece of paper, and he did not do it. So look, I mean, when I tell you I'm going to do something, you can take it to the bank. I'm going to do it.
Are you saying...
Yeah.
We've got another voter question, but it sounds like you're saying Republican voters can't trust Donald Trump.
Well, what I'm saying is if you've run before, promised things, didn't deliver, and then you're running on the same things, wouldn't it be reasonable to say, well, gee, I don't know that I can take that to the bank going forward. So, yes, I think the fact that he's campaigning on something, that does not mean that he would actually follow through on it.
We have Mary Lou here, Mary Lou Nosko. She is a retired Army officer and educator from Nevada, Iowa. She says that she is a Republican who is undecided. Mary Lou, thank you for being here tonight. What's your question for the governor?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for your service, Governor.
You too. Likewise.
I think only a veteran really can appreciate the sacrifice that you and your family made. My question is, I have a 33-year-old son who is a college graduate and a professional, and he feels he will never be able to purchase a home. Home ownership has long been the major part of the American dream. What do you plan to do as president to make home ownership more accessible to the middle class?
Well, thank you for the question, Mary Lou, and thank you for your service to this country. And you're right, not only should we appreciate veterans, but also a lot of the spouses that have served veterans have carried a big load. It's a family effort, and we owe a debt of gratitude to a lot of people. A couple of things we do. One, we need to get interest rates down. The reason why we have high interest rates is because government has borrowed, printed, and spent ungodly sums of money starting in March of 2020. Both parties are responsible for it, and that has driven the interest rates up. Right now, the average price home, your monthly mortgage payment is twice as much as it would have been 5 years ago if you had a mortgage on the average price. So now some of it is home prices have gone up, but a lot of it is because of the interest rates. The other thing we got to do, we need more housing supply in this country. I actually signed legislation in Florida to green light projects, particularly for workforce housing, because you have a situation where in some parts of the country, if you're a police officer or a teacher or a nurse, you can't afford to live in the community where you work. So we can expect cops to have to commute an hour, hour and a half just to go to some of these areas. And then you have rural communities where there's a deficit of housing as well. So lower interest rates and more housing supply. But if we don't solve this issue, and it's housing is part of it and buying a home, but I think there's larger issues about people, young people that are working hard, doing everything right, are falling behind. It's almost cost prohibitive to raise kids in this economy. That's taking the American dream away. We got to restore the American dream, and it starts with getting this fiscal house in order. In Florida, I've been governor. We've actually paid down 25% of our state's debt. I've cut taxes every year. Our economy is ranked #1 of all 50 states by CNBC. We lead the nation in net in-migration. Income growth is top of the charts, #1 in education. So we've shown how it's done, and we need to bring that same level of success to the United States of America.
Florida as well. You have no income tax. You have said that you believe other states should follow Florida's lead on that. If you were president, would you eliminate the federal income tax?
Oh, I mean, can I stop dreaming? I mean, like, wouldn't you like to eliminate the IRS and have, what I would want is I think I would eliminate the IRS, have a single rate, and just do like a flat tax. I think that would be the ideal tax system to be able to do, take away the distortions. And what happens is, Florida's a good example of this. We have low tax and we cut taxes, and yet we attract more investment and our economic base expands. So I run these big budget surpluses where we're paying down debt by lowering rates. I think you look at some of the other states that are high tax states, they tax they cause businesses to flee and individuals to flee. Then they go back to the well and they tax more, and it's like a vicious cycle. So low rates, broad base, ultimately is the best and most conducive to economic
But you
growth.
would push to eliminate the federal income tax.
I want to eliminate the IRS, and I would like a flat, one single rate, flat tax. Is obviously I would only do it if it was lower taxes for everybody, but that is the ideal tax system.
Governor, I want to bring in Eric Adey, who is an attorney from Ames, Iowa, a Republican who says that he is undecided in this race. Eric, what's your question?
Governor, I vote primarily based on foreign policy. And my question to you tonight is, should the United States supply Ukraine with more advanced weaponry, including aircraft, with an aim to helping them regain the captured territory? Or should we just urge them to accept a partial loss of that territory?
Well, first of all, what we would do is, what are our top national security issues? I would say the top in this country are the border and China. And so I think what people in DC are doing, they're ignoring those security threats. They've done an awful lot of money to Ukraine, including money paying for things like pensions for bureaucrats, salaries. How is that something that is benefiting the American people? So what I've said about this is, one, we need to bring it to a conclusion. I think Europe needs to do more to meet their NATO obligations. I mean, ultimately, Russia is more of a threat to them than not. But as president, I'll be very clear, because people will talk about you got to do more money there because so that they don't invade a NATO country. You know, as president of the United States, NATO will be a red line. They will not, Russia will not go after a NATO country when I am president, bar none.
You said bring it to a conclusion. Does that mean end U.S. support for Ukraine?
It means end the conflict. I think we're now in a situation.
But how do you do that?
Biden can't even tell us what the end game is. He will not articulate this. And I just, as somebody that has served, I think the pitfall of U.S. foreign policy over the past 25 years, really since the Cold War, is getting involved in conflicts where we don't have a clear conception of what we're trying to achieve, or we don't have enough support to be able to actually bring it to a conclusion. So he will not articulate that. And I, as president of the United States, if I'm going to be obligating U.S. resources, I want a clear plan for what we're going to accomplish. And I want to make sure that we're going to be able to accomplish that. He has not done that. It's also just the case this. Biden's weakness invited a lot of the problems that we're seeing around the world. How he left Afghanistan was a total disgrace. I mean, it leaves a bitter taste in the mouth of veterans who've served over there to see all that weaponry and all that stuff over there just taken by the Taliban, 13 people killed. That was humiliating for this country. But that sent a signal to people like Russia, to Iran, that now is the time to be able to start acting out. When I'm president, it's going to be totally different. You know, we're going to lay down very clear markers, and people are going to know, don't mess with the USA.
But can you articulate what ending this means? I mean, does that mean that because Congress is talking about this right now. Does that mean sending no more U.S. money, no more U.S. weapons to Ukraine?
What it means is bringing it to a situation where Russia is in a box and you're not having wars break out to Europe. That is our interest in this, to not have larger conflicts. And I think part of the problem with some of the people who always want to get us in deeper in these conflicts is you run the risk of an escalation. I can tell you this, as president of the United States, American service members can take this to the bank, parents of service members, we are not going to send U.S. troops to fight in Ukraine.
But what about U.S. weapons?
Well, I think Europe should supply the weapons.
Okay, not the
I'm
US.
willing to help Europe within the confines of our overall national security strategy, bring it to a conclusion. But we are behind in what we need to do with China. We do not have adequate hard power to be able to deter China from going after Taiwan or breaking out of the first island chain, which they want to do and would have major impacts on this country. And of course, they're doing nothing to secure our own southern border. That border is a threat to this country because hostile people are coming across the southern border. So we need to focus on our house here. And what bugs me about what's going on in DC is they ignore problems here in the United States, and they're focusing on things that are halfway around the world. I mean, I think it's an issue, it's an interest, but you can't put that over our own national security on our own borders.
We also have Cheryl Young here with us tonight, Governor. She is from Winterset, Iowa. She's a Republican who says that she is supporting you in this race. Cheryl, what's your question?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, should abortion rights be controlled by the federal or the state governments?
Well, thanks for the question, and thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Well, clearly, states have the primary role in this because that's what it was all of American history until 1973. So you have states like Iowa that have enacted heartbeat bill. Florida has enacted a heartbeat bill. Other states have done other things. And so that's just, I think, where the country is right now. So we'll be somebody that will defend particularly the rights of states to be able to enact pro-life protections. Now, you have a difference of opinion in this primary because Donald Trump has said that pro-life protections, even at the state level, are a, quote, terrible thing. And he said that in relation to bills like what Iowa did, the heartbeat bill. Now, this is a guy that was at the March for Life in January of 2020, and he said that all life was a gift from God. He said the unborn was made in the image of God. He said that there should be protections. That's what he was saying when he was president at the March for Life. Now he's saying it's a terrible, terrible thing. So how do you reconcile those two views? Did he flip-flop? Did he not believe it at the time? But then to go even further, he actually has said, elevate this issue to the federal government. What he wants to do is find a time. I think he floated like 18 or 20 weeks, have that be the limit, but then override any protections that states have done that are more than that. Well, that is not going to be advancing the cause of life. And so I think for pro-life voters in Iowa, Donald Trump is taking positions that are way different than what he professed to believe when he first ran for president in 2016.
Do you think Donald Trump is not pro-life?
Of course not. I mean, when you're saying that pro-life protections are a terrible thing, by definition, you are not pro-life. When you say that you want to have a federal law at 18 weeks or 20 weeks that would override a state like Iowa that has enacted pro-life protections, that would mean more abortions, not less abortions, because very few abortions are happening that late anyways. So he has flip-flopped on this issue. I don't know if it's because of political convenience or this is all where he always believed in. But here's the thing. Some issues are pretty fundamental. How do you flip-flop on something like the sanctity of life?
It's pretty remarkable to hear you say that, Governor. To say you don't think Donald Trump is pro-life. You mentioned the bill that was signed in Florida, the 6-week abortion bill that you signed earlier this year. That bill has exceptions, but those exceptions, I want to talk about them because for rape and incest, a woman would only have up to 15 weeks to get an abortion, and only if the woman brings a police report, a restraining order, medical record, or a court document to her appointment. For fetal abnormality, that exception, it requires the sign off from 2 doctors. Do you think that those limits are reasonable and that women agree that those limits are reasonable?
So the Florida legislature enacted a heartbeat bill with those exceptions. You know, not every state has done that. Iowa, I don't think, has done that. Some of the other states have not. But those exceptions are in law. I know those are issues that a lot of people have strong feelings about. And so I signed the legislation with those exceptions in law. Rape, incest, life of the mother, victims of human trafficking, as well as the really terrible situations where you have the fetal abnormality. So that is what I think the people wanted, and that was what the law reflects.
But you personally signed it into law. You could have vetoed it if you didn't agree with it. So do you think those are reasonable exceptions?
Those are exceptions that have been talked about for many, many years. And the legislature put those in very carefully. And yes, of course, I think they're reasonable.
You did sign a 15-week bill before that. It didn't have exceptions for rape or incest. If you are president, you've said that you would support a 15-week ban.
Well, here's
on
the
abortion,
thing,
a
though.
federal
The
ban.
reason
But would it
why,
include those exceptions?
But the reason why it wasn't is because there was no reason required at all for up to the 15 weeks. And so that's why they didn't put it in. When you're talking about a heartbeat, it's just a different, there's a prudential judgment that the legislatures are making. But I've said I support exceptions and would support exceptions.
I want to bring in Ronald Lanel, a Medicare insurance agent and a retired farmer from Ankeny, Iowa. Thank you for being here, Ronald. He's a Republican who says that he is supporting Nikki Haley in this race. He is also a Vietnam veteran, so thank you for your service as well. What's your question for the governor?
Thank you. First off, from one veteran to another, I respectfully thank you for your service to our nation.
Likewise, thank you. Appreciate you.
Please give me your definition of patriotism. Did the January 6th insurrectionists display patriotism, as some of them claim they did?
No, of course not. I mean, that was not a good day for the country. I think the media has taken that, and I think the left has taken that and really tried to politicize it, but it was not a good day for the country. You know, patriotism to me is willing to put yourself out there and put service above self. I mean, you served, anyone that serves in the military, they're writing a check payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life. You don't know where they're going to send you. You don't know what you're going to be able to do. But when you're doing that, you are pursuing a higher purpose. And so to me, that's noble. We've had a lot of problems in the military now with recruiting. Recruiting's at a generational low in this country since the Vietnam War. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, and I will rectify that. But part of it is we haven't had a president elected who's been a veteran since 1988, a president that served in a foreign conflict. So I would be the first to do that. And part of what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out all the political, the woke, all the nonsense out of the military's commander-in-chief day one. But we are going to hold up military service as being something that's a noble cause. You know, Ronald Reagan was inspiring when he would talk about some people spend a lifetime not knowing whether they made a difference, but a U.S. Marine doesn't have that problem. John F. Kennedy said people can look back on their life with a great deal of satisfaction saying, I served in the United States Navy. And so this is something that I think is very important. So I will be an advocate for military service. I will talk about that being a worthy endeavor for young people to pursue. And we are going to solve this problem. We are going to get more people signing up.
You're running for president, obviously. I want to ask you what the limits that you think you would have as president. The former president keeps claiming that he can't be prosecuted for anything that happened while he was in office because he has presidential immunity.
Yeah, right.
If you were the nominee and if you're elected president, do you think you would have blanket presidential immunity?
Well, look, I mean, I'm going to, you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I did it when I commissioned as an officer. Anyone that serves in the military does it. I took an oath as governor. As president, you're taking an oath to take care that the laws are faithfully executed and to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So I'm going to wield my authority with that obligation in mind. And if I don't think something is constitutional, I am duty bound to oppose it. That's just the nature of the job. And so I make constitutional judgments all the time. Doesn't mean a court always agrees with it, but I'm going through that analysis. So for example, if Congress sends me a piece of legislation that I think violates the Constitution, even if I think it's a good idea policy-wise, I am duty-bound to veto it, and I will do that. So you're going to see an energetic executive. I'm going to wield Article 2 power to the fullest extent to be able to advance the agenda that I'm running on, and we're going to be able to deliver big victories. But that oath means something to me, and I will satisfy that oath of office. And by the way, you talked about what's going on now. Joe Biden took an oath to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Is there anybody in this room that thinks he is satisfying that oath when it comes to our southern border? I don't think so.
But what about blanket presidential immunity, that a president can do whatever they want? Do you agree with that?
If you're abiding by the Constitution, none of that is going to matter at that point. So follow the law, follow the Constitution. This stuff gets into the weeds legally about what can happen to a president when they leave office based on conduct that may or may not have been official. It's not for me to adjudicate that. I can just tell you this. If you nominate me, I'll get elected, I'll serve. And we won't even be discussing these issues. We'll be discussing your issues. You're not going to be have to worry about my conduct. I'll conduct myself in a way you can be proud of. I'll conduct myself in a way you can tell your kids, that's somebody that you should emulate. And we will have success as a result of that.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, we can be proud again. We don't have to listen to all this.
You have said that you believe his indictments have distorted the primary. Do you think that he's leading in this race because of his indictments?
So look, I mean, there's things that happen when you're running. There's things you can control. I can control how I answer your questions. I can control how hard I'm going to work. Like I've chosen to do the 99 counties. Other candidates haven't. There's other things you can't control. How these things happen, how they're played in the media, all this other stuff. Clearly, it's had an impact. But what I would tell primary voters is whatever may be beneficial in the primary doesn't mean it's beneficial in the general election. And I think a 2024 election where the Democrats get to run against a candidate that is going through all this stuff, that is going to give the Democrats an advantage. Don't have to agree with any of the stuff that was done. That's just the reality. And we end up in a situation where we're putting the future of the Republican Party and the future of the nation, perhaps, in the hands of 12 jurors in heavily Democrat DC, which is likely to be a very stacked left-wing jury, that if they somehow convict, then the Democrats are going to win the election. Why do we want to even go down that road? Let's
Exactly.
focus on your issues.
Yes.
Let's focus on Biden's failures. Let's focus on how we're going to be able to turn this country around. I'll be somebody that's focused on that. But then, even more importantly, as president, I'll be disciplined and determined to deliver on all those things. It's not going to be about me. Heck, when I'm not out there doing the job, I've got young kids. My wife and I will be back home. We'll be doing stuff, raising our family. That's going to be the extent of what we're doing. We are going to be laser focused on your issues.
Governor, stick around. We have many more voters' questions for you. We'll be right back in just a moment with more from Republican presidential candidate Governor Ron DeSantis.
All right, guys. Are you seeing how it's done? Are you seeing how it's done?
Wednesday, a make-or-break night for these presidential hopefuls. DeSantis, Haley, who will come out on top, moderated by Jake.
I got people in the comments saying, oh, wow, I can't believe that CNN is doing such a good job and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, this whole idea of pissing and moaning about networks and moderators and questions being unfair and people being too mean, and that is childish, okay? You are running for president. You take questions. You take the hard questions from the audience, from people. My mouse just ran out of battery. Look at this. I'm in the middle of this, and my mouse runs out of battery. This is insane. But no, there's no. Don't you like that? There's no pissing and moaning, no complaining, or any of this kind of thing. It's just answering questions straight up. Boom, boom. On the border, on abortion, on anything you want to ask. Ask me about January 6th. Ask me about all these things. No, I'm going to conduct myself good. No, what do you want? This is a good point, guys. Do you want to have this election coming down to the jury, to a DC jury? He made that point. I mean, you've got Trump is going to be tried by a DC jury, that stacked jury. Like you want the election coming down to that? That we have to sit there and bite our nails, that we might even not have a candidate on the ballot because of whatever. Look, and it's all about Trump's problems. I mean, my goodness, I went to my local Republican executive club tonight because they were going to vote to try to endorse Trump in the primary. And just there's just not this feeling of joy there, okay? It's very low energy. And you know what? He should say, hey, perhaps Trump isn't here because he has low energy. Perhaps he has lower energy than Jeb Bush. And it's just this like angst and does it have to be that way? No, it doesn't. And this stuff with well, you're behind and he's ahead, and then says who? A poll? I mean, we're not gonna we're not gonna have an election. We're just gonna leave the election up to the media. Trump won't show up. Trump won't Man, I'm getting energy tonight, man. I'm getting energy. Now let's the Nikki Haley thing, okay? Now, Nikki Haley confused the name of an Iowa basketball player, okay? And this is what happened with this. This was Nikki Haley confused the name of this basketball player, Caitlin Clark.
Super excited to see the Lady Hawkeyes play. What a team they are. What a great coach they have. Caitlin Collins is phenomenal. A good, strong woman, so we're excited.
Okay, Caitlin Collins is phenomenal, okay? And the woman's name is that is doing this debate tonight, okay? I think that's Caitlin Collins. So DeSantis comes out and then gives her this, gives her a jersey, which I thought was pretty good. Here we go. Here. So that's what this was all about.
Governor Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Now, it's great to be back at Grandview. Thanks, CNN. So I heard the other day.
Hold on. We're back. Oh, crap. Okay. We're back. She was living a great life. I mean, she was having fun, and then she got checked into the hospital. She seemed to be stable, and then a couple days later did that. So, one, I think about all the things we've done since then. She would have been a great aunt to her her nieces and nephews. I would have liked for them to have been able to get to know her. She obviously would have done a lot of great things with her life. She would have been potentially involved in some of the things we've been doing. But what it shows you is don't take anything for granted. You just never know what's going to happen. And so if there's ever a time when you feel you need to do something, don't just sit back on the sidelines. You go in and you There, let's hear this. It's about his
Welcome back to
sister.
CNN's Republican Presidential Town Hall with Governor DeSantis. Governor, you talk about your family a lot when you're on the campaign trail. You often see your wife, Casey DeSantis, your children with you. I want to ask you about a loss that you experienced in your life with your sister, your family. In 2015, your younger sister, Christina, died suddenly from a pulmonary embolism. I know she was 30 years old. She was about to get married. How did that loss change you?
Well, look, I mean, when you go through having somebody that's in your immediate family, I mean, that's the loss that I think hit you the most. And part of it was just how sudden it was. She was living a great life. I mean, she was having fun, and then she got checked into the hospital. She seemed to be stable, and then a couple days later did that. So, one, I think about all the things we've done since then. She would have been a great aunt to her her nieces and nephews. I would have liked for them to have been able to get to know her. She obviously would have done a lot of great things with her life. She would have been potentially involved in some of the things we've been doing. But what it shows you is don't take anything for granted. You just never know what's going to happen. And so if there's ever a time when you feel you need to do something, don't just sit back on the sidelines. You go in and you do, because you never know what chances you're going to have in the future. So don't take it for granted. Tell your people close to you that you love them, and just try to live your best life every single day, and understand ultimately every day is a gift from God.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that probably
Wow.
resonates with a lot of people here, Governor. We also have more voter questions with us tonight. I want to now get to Bob Peters, who is a retired small business owner from Ankeny. He's a Republican who says he is leaning towards supporting Nikki Haley. What's your question for the governor?
Thank you for being here, Governor.
Ask why.
We have seen many instances of poor choices from the current administration, such as the before mentioned border policies, the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, with no effort to correct those poor choices. Even well-intended plans can fail sometimes. Can you give me an example where, as governor, you implemented a plan that did fail and how you corrected that?
Sure. I think if you look back, what happened with COVID, I mean, the large story is Donald Trump and Anthony Fauci plunged this country into lockdown.
Yep.
Florida led the way in dragging this country out of lockdown. And part of the reason we did that is because I looked at some of the things that were recommended that we had done. So, for example, not have elective procedures at hospitals. They said there's going to be too many people in the hospital. Well, I do this for 3 or 4 weeks and our hospitals were empty. So I said, you know what? The data doesn't support that. We're opening it up. We protected nursing homes. And we've got 4,000 long-term care facilities. We didn't want it ravaging. We did testing. We limited people going in to not have a big outbreak, which did save lives. But those restrictions carried on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then you had to start balancing, okay, this virus is significant. We obviously are sensitive with elderly people, but shouldn't we be giving them the decision-making about having family visitation and all this stuff? Are we as the government going to make that decision for them? So I made the decision. I think we were the first state in the country to say, you know what? Let them make these decisions about this, because there is more to life than just one virus. The human connection that people long for.
Amen.
And I had a lady named Mary Daniel from Jacksonville, Florida. And so in those initial weeks, she wasn't able to go and visit her husband, who was in a memory care facility. So she decided to apply to get a job to work in the facility so that she could have interaction with him. And so she came and talked about her story. She talked about how while people were very concerned about the virus's effect on elderly people, that we had to figure out a way to do it. So you know what? That really touched me. And so we did it, and we made the change, and I think that was a good change. And we ended up doing, and not that we never restricted hospitals, but the hospitals throughout this country were denying visitation for people. These end-of-life moments you're having to spend on a FaceTime or on an iPad instead of having your loved ones there. That was overkill. And that left, these are tough issues anyways, but you have a little bit of sense of closure if you're there and you can say goodbye, if you can hug your loved one more time, if you can do those things that require that human connection. And that was taken away from so many people. So we did legislation in Florida called No Patient Left Alone Act. You have a right to have your family members present with you when you're in the hospital, particularly when you're in those sensitive end-of-life situations. That's the right thing to do. And we made sure that we were looking at the whole picture and making sure that we had this very important human interaction respected and protected.
That question about, being governor, being on the job, whether or not you make mistakes while you're on the job. There's another governor in this race, Chris Christie. He recently said something about a mistake that he believes he made while he was governor of New Jersey. He says that was on gay marriage, that he was wrong. He admits it, and he says that true leaders, admit that when they are wrong. You have previously said that the definition of marriage is exclusively between a man and a woman. I'm curious, is that still how you feel today?
So that's just what marriage is with the church, and I respect the Supreme Court's decision. We've abided by that in Florida, even though our Constitution defines it as between a man and a woman. But I think what we need to recognize is, you are going to have people try to wield power against our religious institutions and try to marginalize them simply by upholding the biblical definition of marriage. And so I'm going to protect those religious institutions to be able to do what has always been done in terms of how they consider marriage as a sacrament. So in terms of the church, that's just what it is. Now, in terms of the Supreme Court's decision with civil law, the state, we had a different policy. This was before I was governor. And so the state of Florida has respected that.
We've got another voter here with us, Governor, tonight. This is Trey Wellman, a student at Iowa State University from Ames, who grew up on a family farm. He is the vice chair of the Iowa Federation of College Republicans. He says he's undecided. He's not going to bring up Alabama football. Go ahead, Trey.
So growing up on a family farm and being and studying agriculture and rural policy at Iowa State, this is something that we've talked an awful lot about. For many years, rural areas have been declining in population, which can lead to poverty, limited opportunity, and higher prices. What do you think are the reasons for this, and what will you do as president to build up rural communities and their populations?
And you said you're Iowa State?
Iowa State, yes,
okay.
Sir.
I was at the game this year. It was a tough one, but you have a lot of Florida high school players on the roster, so I appreciate it. And of course, the governor here is an Iowa State grad, so I didn't say anything cross about Iowa State. My son, incidentally, so you all in Iowa have this Machine Shed restaurant. My wife and I, we do like Cracker Barrel with the kids. We were going to do that, and I was like, we got to try Machine Shed. My son's 5 years old. He's like a sports nut. He got a checkered board modeled after the Iowa State football field. So he now loves Iowa State because he has that checkerboard. And then he also has gotten to see the Iowa Stadium, and we were actually watching the Iowa game with some supporters in Ankeny over the weekend, and so they got him a nice Iowa shirt. He's got Iowa socks and everything. I was on the campaign trail with him the morning of the Iowa-Michigan Big Ten game. And I didn't rehearse this with him. He came up on the stage with me. I have the microphone. And I said, hey, buddy, who's going to win Iowa versus Michigan? And I'm moving the mic down to him. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, my gosh, if this kid says Michigan, he's going to get booed here in Iowa at 5 years old. He was so clutch. He's like, Iowa. So he was really excited about that. Now, to get to your question, rural communities are part of the backbone of America. And I've been able to see that firsthand traveling to all 99 counties in Iowa. I've also been able to see it in my home state of Florida. I mean, some people that aren't from Florida, you think South Beach, or you think the attractions in Orlando, or you think if you're in the Midwest, a lot of these places themselves are great areas. But, we have a lot of rural counties in our state. I was the first governor to do public events in all 67 Florida counties. There were people that had never seen a governor before in some of our rural counties. We've worked to do rural broadband infrastructure, things that are really, really significant. So a couple things. One, I understand the importance of agriculture for our country. It's not just an economic issue. Food security is a national security issue. And I think we're more secure and better when we have family farms that are viable and that can pass that down from generation to generation. I don't want everything to be massive corporations. We need to eliminate the death tax on these family farms so that they can pass it down without getting taxed. We also need to recognize that the cost of government when bureaucracies run amok, like they say, in Iowa, you had to go to the Supreme Court. There's a puddle on your property and that's waters of the United States. EPA can come in and have federal jurisdiction. No way. That is not right. But that use of bureaucracy benefits the entrenched big companies at the expense of the smaller companies. So I think part of the answer for rural America is small business and the emphasis on that. And I think that's the backbone of whether our economy is going to succeed or not. You got these guys on Wall Street, Silicon Valley, that's fine. But if we don't have those small businesses in these local communities that are able to succeed, we're not going to have the American dream.
We have another voter here tonight, Chad Ryan, a hospice chaplain from Huxley, Iowa, a Republican who says that he is undecided in this race. Chad, what is your question for Governor DeSantis?
Governor DeSantis, thank you for being here. I would like to hear you answer this question in a spirit of civility and humility. If you become president, what is one aspect of President Biden's leadership that you would hope to emulate?
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Look, we've got a myriad of policy differences. And I think the results have been very, very poor. So I think on the policy, you're going to see differences. I'll tell you this though, we had a hurricane hit, Category 5 Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida. Some of you know because some of you have been down there, and it devastated Southwest Florida. It knocked out a bridge to Pine Island. It knocked out the causeway going to Sanibel. We had millions and millions of people without power. Now we had a great response. We had everyone lined up. Quickest power restoration in history, search and rescue, all these things. Democrat in the White House with the media who would love to do it. He could have tried to politicize it. And I'll give him credit. He didn't try to politicize it. I think when you have situations where there's national tragedies or disasters, trying to politicize it doesn't work. You got to put the people first. And I will notice with respect to the media, the national media, they were down there. They wanted to make it an issue politically. I mean, I was running for re-election. That's what they wanted to do. When they're asking and people are saying, oh my gosh, they had all these rescues. All the power went on in record time. We even rebuilt the bridge to Pine Island. People said it was going to take 6 months. We took control of it at the state level. We rebuilt it in 3 days. Once they saw, the national media saw that things were going well and that people were appreciative of the response, you couldn't find national media outlets in Florida if you had a search warrant. They did not have a story. Their story was to try to create conflict and to try to demean the response. So that's just the reality. But I will say this, the White House under Biden, they worked with us to put the people first. And as president, when we have these national disasters, I don't care if it's a Republican governor like Kim Reynolds, who I'm very close with, or a liberal governor like Newsom, who I've got some differences with. When you have these situations, leaders got to lead, and you got to put politics aside.
Yeah, you see it, guys.
Disaster responses go well, Governor. We've got another voter here, Deanna Bozen. She is a psychiatrist from West Des Moines, a Republican who says that she is undecided in this race. What is your question for the governor, Deanna?
Hi, Governor DeSantis.
Hello.
I have a question for you on mental health. Lack of adequate health insurance, which covers diagnosis and treatment of mental health disorders, is a significant problem for millions of Americans. What are your plans for addressing this issue at the federal level?
Well, thank you, Deanna. I think this is a huge issue. And this is an issue that in every corner of Iowa, people are asking about. I mean, this is not just something where a few people are talking about it, because we've seen this issue all across the country. We're going to do a couple things. One, we're going to support efforts like we did in Florida to provide more mental health resources in our schools. Sometimes there's a stigma about seeking help. My wife, the First Lady of Florida, has launched a program to focus it more on resiliency. And it's something that athletes, famous people have gotten behind and talked about. And it's created, I think, a lot of positive feedback with that. One thing we're not going to allow, though, in the schools, or we shouldn't allow, is the politicization of mental health, or to try to use mental health to advance an agenda. And unfortunately, you see examples of this. There's like woke ideology in some of this. Can we please not try to politicize everything in this country? So I think for the youth, I think it's important. The other thing I think is really important, we need to do a better job for our veterans. We have 22 suicides a day still with veterans. And as somebody who served post 9/11, we didn't have a draft. You put a huge burden on a very small percentage of this country. People did multiple deployments, Marines, Army, Special Forces. That is not normal to be deploying that much. You are going to come back. People are going to have invisible wounds of war. We do good about seeing if somebody has a physical wound. We haven't done as well about those invisible wounds. So how do you deal with it? The VA ultimately is not going to be able to solve this problem by itself. It's too big a bureaucracy. It's too cumbersome. I'm going to fire a lot of people in the VA. I'm going to have accountability. They need to do a better job for the veterans. But we're going to do like we did in Florida, where we're going to take a model that my wife started with respect to welfare benefits. We're going to apply it to veterans benefits, something like a care portal. Veteran goes in, maybe they have post-traumatic stress. Okay, the VA can do what they want, but they put that in this portal. We're going to invite veterans groups, charities, churches, businesses, individual volunteers, people that want to help the veterans. It's going to go out. Guess what you're going to see? You're going to see these folks come. They're going to offer very quick help. Sometimes it's mental health services where we have veterans clinics around this country. I've got charities in Florida that train service dogs to be able to help veterans who have symptoms of post-traumatic stress. You know what? The suicide rate goes down. Maybe it's something as simple as somebody that lives in the neighborhood that's part of this portal. They say that this veteran's having a tough time. Maybe they just go to his home and say, you know what? I just want to see if you're okay. Can I take you out to lunch? That can be something, just the fact that you show you care, that can be enough to avoid a suicide right there. But the bureaucracy is not going to save us. We need to use the VA as a conduit for all these other great resources, because in every part of Iowa and in every part of Florida, and I think most parts of this United States, people value the service of these veterans and they want to help. We just got to link the veteran to all the services that can be utilized and all the resources that are out there.
Governor, we've got another voter question for you. This is Tamara Thomas, a mother and grandmother from Van Meter, Iowa, a Republican who is also undecided in this race. Tamara, what's your question for the governor?
What do you think is your biggest strength that you have if you are voted to be our next president?
Is it Tamara?
Tamara, you got it.
Tamara. Okay, well, thank you for the question. Van Meter, Iowa, interesting. As a young kid who liked baseball, one day in Dunedin, Florida, where I grew up, there was a famous guy from Van Meter that was there signing autographs named Bob Feller, one of the fastest pitchers ever. But, you know, when World War II had interrupted his career, most of these ball players were part of like entertaining. They could just play ball and entertain the troops. Bob Feller said, nope, I'm going to war. So he served in combat and served with distinction. Great American, and Van Meter should be proud of Bob Feller. Look, I think that my strength is that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I don't just say that flippantly. I'm not just saying it to win an election. There are things I could be promising that would probably get me some more votes that I know I couldn't deliver on. So if I tell you I'm going to do something, you take it to the bank, we are going to deliver on it. I'm the only one running for president that has delivered on 100% of my promises. In fact, I over-delivered on what I promised. How often have you elected somebody president that has over-delivered on their promises?
Never.
Not very often. And I'll fight for you. All the people that are causing these problems, I'm the only one running that have beaten these people, whether it's the teachers union with school choice, whether it's beating Fauci on COVID, whether it's beating people like Soros on crime, whether it's beating the Democrats ensuring election integrity, while it's beating the left and banning China from buying land. On issue after issue, I've delivered results. Leadership is not about entertainment. Leadership is not about showmanship. Leadership is about articulating a vision, implementing that vision, and delivering results for the people that you represent. I will be results focused.
Governor, we've had a lot of great
There
voter
you
questions here
go.
tonight. Obviously, the caucus is just 11 days away. You said previously that you believe if Donald Trump does not win Iowa, that he'll say the caucuses were stolen. What if Republican voters
Of
believe
course
him?
he
Well,
will.
no, they're not. I think Iowans know that
He's already
this is an
setting that
important
up.
process. I think Iowans know there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's going to be done very well. You've got a great state party. You've got a lot of great people. And you just have honest people here. You know, this is, you know, I've been traveling around all 99 counties. People say all the problems in the country, you know, how are we going to be able to do it? There's a lot of pessimism out there. I can tell you this, meeting Iowans in every corner of this state, I see people that are patriotic, hardworking, God-fearing. This is the backbone of this country, and this is the formula to be able to reverse the decline of this country. We can do it. Decline is a choice. We have it within our power to take this country in a different direction and to make sure that we are not the first generation of Americans to turn over to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. I'm not going to sit idly by and watch the managed decline of the United States of America.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thank you to all of the voters who asked questions here. Stay right here because coming up next on this stage, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley for her town hall with Aaron Burnett.
There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah, guys. I mean, there you go. Have you seen a better candidate?
There is no
Have you
media
seen a
personality,
better candidate
businesswoman
in your life? I mean, I just, this guy is a freaking dream come true. I mean, and we got Democrats in here too, and people, who are commenting, like, and share this around. What do you think? Do I stick around for Haley? Do I stick around for Haley? Do you guys want to watch Haley? Do we want to see it if she flubs? I mean, or screeches or whatever. But, if Trump, of course, look what Trump put out today. Okay, he put out today. Basically, or he's sending out this mailer that's basically preparing for his little crybaby. The election was stolen from me nonsense. Okay, there he is doing the bit lip with his buddy Jeff Epstein, which don't say that, don't say it. Oh yeah, by the way, all the people that have been like, well, I thought Ron DeSantis was good, but why does he allow the COVID vaccines to stay in Florida? Well, guess what? His Surgeon General is setting the stage to ban them in Florida, or to not have them here. Okay, there you go. mRNA. All right. I don't want to get too much into that because I don't want to get censored on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, and then he brought up the part about, hey, was there a time where you did something that was wrong, or something that you regretted? Oh, you're welcome, Raul. What's up, Sarah? A little bit. Yeah, look, I'm loving DeSantis here, guys. This is DeSantis. He runs circles around them. And, we've been trained to now complain about media. Look, to me, I did not have to sit here and come into this and worry that DeSantis was going to screw up, or that he wasn't going to be able to field the question right, or that he was going to do something stupid, or have a gaffe. He actually mocked one of Nikki Haley's gaffes. If you got this basketball player mixed up with this person here, with this is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark's the basketball player, and Caitlin Collins is this info babe on CNN here. All right, and I don't sit here and piss and moan about CNN. Lately, I like CNN more than Fox. Fox is just so. You just know what you're getting with them. I mean, I kind of like that she asked him about his sister who died. I mean, and he said like value and cherish every second of life because you don't know how much you have. And we wish that she should be around. She could be an aunt, and you just don't know how much time you have left. Take advantage of it. I thought this ad was so based. All right, this was an ad that DeSantis campaign shared that they took so much flack for. This is my favorite ad in all of politics.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses. That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America
Let's
great
go.
I cannot think of anything more horrifying. It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
Oh man, everybody went nuts over this ad. That came out way back at the beginning of the campaign. Everybody, did you guys see that? Everybody went nuts over that. They're like, "Oh my God, it's American Psycho there!" I thought that was the coolest. That was a cool. It wasn't a DeSantis campaign ad. It was something somebody made, and they shared it on their war room account. I don't care. I wish it was a DeSantis campaign ad. That thing was freaking awesome. But I don't know. That was being brought up, so I thought I'd bring that up again. Do you guys want to go to Haley? Do you guys want to see Haley? Yeah. No. Okay. Well, babe, you can make dinner and make it. Okay. Well, I'll watch Haley for a minute. I'll watch Haley for just a minute. All right. Let's see what Haley says. And just compare that one. All right. Here we go. Here is Haley. Let's see what she's got to say. All right. Don't have your hopes too high.
Guests of the Haley campaign and Grandview University are also in the audience tonight, but I do want to note they will not be asking questions. We've asked everyone here to be respectful to each other and to Governor Haley so that everyone here in this room and everyone watching at home has a chance to hear from the candidate. Now, please welcome Governor Nikki Haley.
Now, the DeSantis town hall's over. Now Haley comes out. Trump's too much of a chicken shit tower to show up. Oh, yeah. He can send him a box of tissues when he loses Iowa. That's what DeSantis could do. How about that?
All right. So I want to start today. We were, getting ready this morning for this town hall, Governor, and something crossed our wires, a shooting, a school shooting. And here we are with kids back a day or 2 days and another horrific event in this country. A sixth grader was killed. People were injured. And we did receive from people in this room, updating their questions, asking questions about what had happened about this. So I want to start with Matt Triplett, because I know you have a specific question about what happened today in Perry. You're a senior project manager from Des Moines, a Republican. And I know you indicated that you support Governor Haley. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here tonight, Governor.
Thank you.
Before I answer or ask my question, I'd like to just give my condolences to the community in Perry tonight, as well as the state of Iowa. So with that, Governor, with the school shooting that happened today in Perry, how do you plan to address the school shooting issue? Enough is enough with politicians skirting the issue on this, and it must be addressed.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, our hearts go out to the parents of all of them. Our hearts go out to the kids that are going to have to deal with this for a few years. So much thanks to law enforcement, to the chief who did a great job, to the principal who really has come out as such a hero in this. But look, I have a mom heart. My daughter works at the Children's Hospital, and I worry about something happening there. My son is a senior in college. I worry about something happening on his campus. My son-in-law is a fifth grade teacher at a school. I worry about something happening there. Every day, the first thing I do when I wake up is think of my kids, and the last thing I think of when I go to bed is my kids. And so I know the concerns that everybody has. But it is time that we deal with this in the way that we should deal with this. Instead of living in fear, let's do something about it. We have got to deal with the cancer that is mental health. We have to. 1 in 3 people have a mental health issue. But if treated, they can live a perfectly normal life. What we see is 80% of mass shooters are in some sort of crisis at the time that they do that. We've got to do better. The problem is we don't have enough mental health therapists. We don't have enough mental health centers. And if you don't get treated, you can fall into an addiction. We don't have enough addiction centers. And if you happen to be lucky enough to get one of those 3, insurance doesn't cover it. So we've got to start doing that. The second thing is we have to secure our schools the same way we secure our airports and our courthouses. And that means we make sure that we have whatever we need to make sure nothing comes through, bullet-wise or otherwise. We need to have a security officer at the front of every school. We need to have 1 point of entry, no side or rear entries. And then we need to make sure that we have someone on staff, not a guidance counselor, but a mental health counselor that does nothing but look to see which kids may be in crisis. And let's start there. That's at least doing something, but we have to do something. This is heartbreaking. I will tell you what I saw this morning before anybody could even think about these lives and what we do. You have to really think of the families. I had, when I was governor, a school shooting at Townville Elementary. And we had a shooter come in and he shot basically at a playground. And we had little Jacob Hall, who was 6 years old, who died that day, or who died a couple of days later. He was shot that day. I was at the hospital with his parents the night he was shot. The gravity
of what that was is something I will never forget, because the prayers that they had, and I knew in what condition he was in. We have to start really focusing on what we're going to do this. And everybody thinks, oh, mental health, mental health. We have to stop. Mental health is a serious issue. But if we know it, we can treat people. What are we doing losing Americans every single day because we refuse to deal with this issue? And the national media has done what they always do. They're wanting to talk about race. They're wanting to talk about gun control. They're wanting to talk about all these other issues. So my advice to the people of Perry, give them the respect and let them deal with the families and the sorrow and everything. But when the time comes, let's have that conversation on mental health. When I am president, we will treat it like the crisis that it is.
And Governor, just to be
You won't hear her talk about examples in her
to be
state
very
if
clear
you
on what
can't.
you would do that. You want to focus on mental health, that you think that's important. You talked about hardening schools, much like courthouses, right? You were very clear. But just to be clear on gun restrictions themselves, do you favor any additional gun restrictions or no?
I'm a concealed weapons permit holder myself. And I will tell you that we could go and take away a certain kind of gun today, and that would make you feel better today. But a week from now, there'd be another shooting. Let's talk about the hard truth. That's the reality of it. So in a time where we're seeing a lot of lawlessness on our streets and in our cities, we can't go and take away people's rights to protect themselves and protect their families. Instead, why don't we do the hard work and deal with the mental health? If we start to do that, I know that we will see a reduction in what's happening, but you don't take away from good people because you see something like this happening from other people who commit crimes.
There are a lot of issues on the minds of voters here. And of course, with 11 days to go, one of the big ones is actually the state of this race and where things are. Josh Lemon is a portfolio manager, I know, at a local bank. Josh, you're an independent and you voted for Joe Biden in 2020, but you've said you plan to vote for a GOP candidate this time around. And as I was telling everybody watching at home, you're allowed to register right up until caucus night, right? So that's the way it works here in this state. So you're deciding between Governor Haley and Governor DeSantis. Go ahead.
Correct. And thanks for taking my question.
Thank you.
What is your strategy to overtake Donald Trump in the polls?
You know, I think that what you're seeing is we've got momentum. We've got momentum in Iowa. We've got momentum in New Hampshire. You're going to continue to see us be strong in South Carolina. And really what it's been is it's been about, let's talk about where this is. I personally think President Trump was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies. But the reality is,
He was.
rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. And we all know that's true. Chaos follows him.
That is
and
true.
we can't have a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. And you don't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. Now is the time we need to have a new generational leader, one that's going to leave the negativity and the baggage behind and start focusing on the real issues that we have in the future. But more than that, Americans don't want another nail biter of an election. And that's what we'll get. Look at any of the polls, head to head against Joe Biden. Ron doesn't beat Biden. Trump, head to head with Biden. On a good day, he might be up by 2. The Wall Street Journal had him up by 4. I'm in every one of those same polls. I defeat Biden by 17 points. 17 points. That makes it bigger than the presidency. That's governorships, that's House, that's Senate, that's down to school boards. But more than that, you win by double digits. You're going into DC with a mandate to stop all the wasteful spending and get inflation under control, a mandate to get our kids reading again and take education back to the basics, a mandate to secure our border, no more excuses, a mandate to bring law and order back to our country, and a mandate of a strong America that we can be proud of. That's what we're doing. That's what I think we need to do. It is time to move past President Trump, and it is time to start focusing on how to strengthen America and do this for our kids and our grandkids.
There was one thing you said there, and I know you've talked about him being, the chaos following him, but you did say something there I wanted to follow up on as people face this decision. You said, rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. Is it rightly or wrongly? Is he the one who causes that chaos, or is he just the unwitting victim?
It's both. I mean, you see a lot of these cases they've brought against him are political in nature. And there's no basis on it. And then you see some that he's going to have to answer for. But look, I'm not telling you anything I used to tell him. I used to tell him he's his own worst enemy. And so I think at the end of the day,
That's true.
we don't need anyone who's getting in their feelings. We don't need anyone that's getting personal about anything. We have a country to save. And that means no more drama. No more taking things personally. I mean, you look at the situation, the differences I have with him is, first of all, I'm an accountant. We have got to get our economy back on track. And everybody wants to talk about the economy they had under Trump. But at what cost? At what cost? $8 trillion in 4 years. Our kids will never forgive us for that. We are having to dig out of it. So you may have had a good 4 years, but look at what we're paying for now. As of now, in a couple of years, we'll be paying more money in interest payments than we are in our defense budget. You know who notices that? Russia, China, and Iran. That's what happens there. The second thing is you look at how he deals with dictators.
China.
I think it's completely wrong. He praised China's President Xi a dozen times after China gave us COVID. You don't do that. He congratulated them on the 70th anniversary of the Communist Party. We don't do that. When Israel fell to her knees, you're going to go pick a fight with Israel's prime minister because of some issue, personal issue you had with him before, and you're going to praise Hezbollah? It's just not what we need to do.
Yeah.
We need to do this
Yeah,
without
you
emotion. We need to do this with a sane sense of
Very
how we're
nice.
going to take America forward.
All right, so we're going to, and you mentioned the economy, and I want to come back to that in a moment. But first, I do want to bring another audience question. Dave Holm is the executive director of the Iowa Institute for Cooperatives, a Republican from Ames, and he does say he's supporting you. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Thank you for being here tonight,
Thank you.
Governor. Many of our ag co-ops use foreign laborers now, and we would like to use more, but the process is very daunting. And yet we have thousands of foreigners crossing into our U.S. daily on our southern border. What is your comprehensive border policy that would address both those that want to contribute and work in this country and still maintain our border security?
And Dave, you're exactly right. You can do both. And we have to do both. So the first thing is you look at the illegal immigration, all the illegals that are coming to the border. It is truly a dereliction of duty, what Biden is allowing to have happen. And to now think that Governor Abbott of Texas is trying to do everything he can to save Texans, and he's putting barbed wire up, and Biden is trying to go against him to cut the barbed wire? Are you kidding me? Like, you can't go and risk people's lives. America right now is acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. So you have 8 million people that have come to the border, and they've only sent 140,000 back. That's it. And so we're left with taking care of the health care of them, the education of those kids, law enforcement having to deal with them. What we will do is, I passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country when I was governor of South Carolina. We'll take that national. We will do a national E-Verify program that requires businesses to have to prove the people that they hire are in this country legally. We will defund sanctuary cities once and for all. No more safe havens for illegal immigrants. We'll put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. That's not happening right now. We will go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That's how we will close the border and get that to stop. But legal immigration, our legal immigration system is completely broken too. It shouldn't take someone 10 years to become a citizen. And we need to be smart about how we do it. Presidents in the past have always said, set quotas. I'll take this many this year, this many next year. Instead, look at, what does our economy need? I came from an agricultural state and a tourism state. Our farmers needed workers. We need to make sure we are focusing on the businesses that they are not struggling to find workers. And that's the part, when you do it on merit, and that's how we need to bring people in, based on merit, not just a random quota, then you're building up your economy. You're supporting your businesses. You're making sure that we can all grow together. but we've got to make sure we deal with that. I mean, think about it. We have students that come from overseas. We educate them, and then we send them back home. I mean, that's lunacy. We've got to start using some common sense when it comes to
You mentioned Governor Abbott, and I wanted to ask you something specific that he's done, but also Governor DeSantis has done, and that is busing migrants from border states up to sanctuary cities. 90,000, according to the tabulation, from Texas alone to New York, Chicago. And obviously, Governor DeSantis has sent migrants to Martha's Vineyard as well as Sacramento. Do you support Governor DeSantis doing that? Would you do that as
well,
governor?
I'll talk about Governor Abbott because I think he was courageous. He was the first one to do it. But look at what he's
I don't
done.
want to talk about
Today I was
it.
watching
No,
Governor
I don't
Abbott
want to
and
talk
Mayor
about the airlines.
Eric Adams kind of having different things to say. Governor Abbott, if the president won't secure and give security to the people of Texas, a governor has a job to protect your citizens. So he's busing them, but where is he busing them to? New York City is a sanctuary city. So you can't say we're open, we're accepting of everybody, and then when they come to you say, oh, I didn't mean it, never mind.
So do you think it's been effective, the busing?
I think it's been hugely effective because all of a sudden, the rest of the country is feeling what Texans have had to deal with for so long. And I went to the border, and truly what they deal with is unimaginable. Those ranchers having to look and see if every morning if someone died crossing the fence, having to pick up kids and turn them over to Border Patrol. You look at what the sheriffs go through and the idea that they go and round up whatever illegal immigrants they can find before 7 a.m., take them to Border Patrol documents them and releases them until their court date years from now. We can't keep functioning like that. We are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on.
You brought
Did
up the
any of you
economy
catch
earlier, and I
any of
promised
that?
we'd get to it, and I want to get to it now with you, Molly. Molly Honer is a college student Republican who says she will support any Republican other than Donald Trump. So go ahead with your question.
Hi,
Hi,
Molly.
Governor Haley. So I'm going to be graduating from college soon, and I'm worried about the economy. What do you plan to change to make our economy strong?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But you know what Molly is saying is the same thing my son is saying, is the same thing that every young individual coming out of college is saying, and think about it through their eyes. Bless you. First of all, think about the fact that they went through COVID. Then think about the fact that they watched our country go $8 trillion in debt in 4 years under Trump. And now we're saying, oh, we're going to have to pay it back. And they didn't do anything to cause it. Then look at the fact that one, they have to find a job. Two, they're having to say, how am I going to afford to live? What used to be the American dream of buying a home, the average home buyer in America is now 49 years old. So that's so out of reach for them. And so they're worried they're not going to be able to afford a place to stay, rent. They're worried they're not going to find a job. They're worried about the debt that the country is in and inflation that's gone up, that everything's more expensive. From their standpoint, they're looking at a country and they're wondering how they're going to get through. And what we owe it to them is to get the economy back on track. The way we get the economy back on track is to first acknowledge that there is a spending problem in DC. And it's not a Republican
I'm losing
problem or a
viewers,
Democrat
guys.
problem.
I'm losing
Both of
viewers.
them did
Nobody's
that to
liking
us.
this.
I mean, you look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they
Oh,
passed
these
with
viewers
no
going
accountability.
down.
They have now left us with 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. And then Republicans opened back up earmarks and pet projects for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them last December. We can't afford things like that. So when it comes to our economy and getting inflation under control, the first thing we need to do is claw back the over $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, let's go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent.
All right, that's a good point.
If 8% of our budget is interest,
point. Okay,
quit
I'll give her
borrowing.
that.
Cut up the credit cards. You have to
Make
balance
them
a budget
clean up
every day.
trash on the freeway.
I had to balance a
Every
budget as
single
governor.
one.
Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance the budget? So we'll stop the spending, we'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate the earmarks, and I will veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. Then we're going to go and take as many federal programs as we can.
I just don't believe
and
her.
send them down to the states.
I just
that
don't
will
believe her.
reduce the size of the federal government, but it will empower people on the ground. Think healthcare, think welfare, think education. If we started doing that. Right now, 70% of federal employees are still working from home 3 years after COVID. 75% of most of our agencies are sitting empty. We're paying for that. We've got to start getting the waste out of government. This is not them coming to us saying we need more money. This is us going to them saying, you did this. Now we're going to have to go and make the hard decisions to get us out of it. And we can do that. And then I think we need to open up the middle class. We're watching in America, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And what we need to do, it's why I want to eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. I want to cut taxes on the middle class and simplify the brackets. And then let's make the small business tax cuts permanent. They made corporate tax cuts permanent, but they made small business tax cuts temporary. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. We can't just say it, we have to prove it. And that's what we'll do to get our economy back on
So
track.
you mentioned, you talk a lot about spending, and then you were talking about taxes there a bit. So when you ran for state senate, it was interesting. You were asked to sign a pledge to never raise taxes. And other people that were running against you, they did. They went and they signed it and they did it. It was, they all did it. You told the state newspaper, quote, no one wants to see taxes raised, but I think it would be closed-minded to sign a pledge. Would you sign that pledge now?
I would sign that pledge now simply because I've always been the type, don't handcuff yourself. But I will tell you now, government has way too much money. There's waste in every agency. There's waste in the way we govern, every bit of it. And we have to, the first thing I want to do is go to every single agency, pull down all the bureaucracy, the red tape, the programs we don't need to have. Government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. And we are seeing a bloated government that needs to go on a diet. And I think the only way we do that is we sit there and tell them it is now time for them to show the taxpayer return on investment. It is not time for the taxpayer to continue to have to work for government.
So I want to ask you about something that's been a challenge for your campaign over the past week. And this, of course, is referring back to New Hampshire. You were asked to explain the cause of the Civil War. You obviously did not mention slavery. And afterwards, you came up, you said that was a mistake. In fact, you said it should have been the first thing that you said. So you did come out and say that. Chris Christie, though, came out and said that you gave that answer not because you're, in his words, dumb or racist, but because you're, quote, unwilling to offend anyone by telling the truth. What do you say to that?
No one's ever said that I am unwilling to offend. I offend plenty of people because I call people out when they do something wrong.
Yeah, you're pretty offensive.
What I will tell you is Chris Christie is from New Jersey. I should have said slavery right off the bat. But if you grow up in South Carolina, literally in second and third grade, you learn about slavery. You grow up and you have, I had black friends growing up. It is a very talked about thing. We have a big history in South Carolina when it comes to, slavery, when it comes to all the things that happened with the Civil War, all of that. I was thinking past slavery and talking about the lesson that we would learn going forward. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said slavery, but in my mind, that's a given that everybody associates the Civil War with slavery.
So when you talk about slavery being a constant point of discussion, being a point in where you go, my children growing up in New York, they learn about slavery in first grade.
DeSantis isn't having to clean up this mess.
Can you share what the discussions about slavery were like? In your household, you've talked about experiencing humiliating discrimination when you were a little girl, things you remember. What were the discussions about slavery like for you?
I mean, I think that no different than anyone else in South Carolina. I mean, we had the time that I came and grew up, we were the only Indian family in a small rural Southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. So we dealt with our own challenges. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground and I would come home, my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And it's amazing how that lesson on the playground played throughout my life. Because whether it was in the corporate world or as governor or as ambassador, when you're first faced with a challenge, if you talk about what you have in common, people let their guard down and then you can get to a solution. So when you talk about slavery, it was not just slavery that was talked about. It was more about racism that was talked about. It was more about, we had friends, we had Black friends, we had white friends, but it was always a topic of conversation, even among our friends. And in the South, we're very comfortable talking about it because we know that's what it is. But the goal was always to make today better than yesterday.
Boy.
And even though that there was, a lot of hardened thoughts on that there. I mean, we went through it. I dealt with my share of dealing with race issues. We had the tragic shooting of Walter Scott. He was an unarmed Black man that was shot in the back 7 times by a dirty cop. And this was on the heels of Ferguson. South Carolina could have caught on fire, but we didn't do that. I talked to the Walter Scott family. I talked to law enforcement, and a month to the day at the bill signing, we had them both there, and we signed the first body camera bill in the country. A month later, we had the horrific shooting
about other things now.
at Mother Emanuel Church, when a white supremacist went into a Bible study and took 9 amazing souls. The entire national media came in wanting to make it about gun control and racism and death penalty. And I said at the time, there will be a time and place we have those conversations, but right now we have 9 souls we need to lay to rest. And I didn't have that luxury because 2 days later, the killer came out with his manifesto and he was draped in the Confederate flag. And the Confederate flag had always been either on top of the State House or right in front of the State House since the year 2000.
Here we go.
And it is incredibly sensitive and a personal issue in South Carolina. And I focused that next day. I said, I want to have 4 meetings. I want to call Republican leadership. I want to call Democrat leadership. I want to call the congressional delegation, and I want to call community leaders. And I told my staff, don't tell them what this is about because I knew they wouldn't show up. And when they came, I said at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to call for the Confederate flag to come down. And if you will stand with me, I will forever be grateful. And if you won't, I'll never let anyone know that you were in this room. And it was a tough thing, Aaron, because we had to have 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. And to bring a divided state together and avoid riots and protests, the way we did that was I knew half of South Carolinians saw the Confederate flag as heritage and tradition. The other half of South Carolinians saw it as slavery and hate. My job wasn't to judge either side. My job was to get them to see the best of themselves and go forward. And South Carolinians showed what true strength and grace look like because we didn't have protests, we had vigils. We didn't have riots, we had prayer. And South Carolina led the way, but that is the way we have to work on issues that try and divide us, is don't go and pick who's right and who's wrong and who's good and who's bad. That's what leaders are doing now, and it's caused us to be completely in political disarray. A leader doesn't decide who's right. When you serve the people, you serve everybody. And your job is to give them all the information you have and let them know where you want to go going forward.
What a word salad was that? Better flag, right? What a word salad.
That
My
lady's a teacher.
goodness.
She's from Ames here in Iowa. She's a Republican and she is undecided. So
Just
go
like
ahead with your
Lincoln,
question.
yeah.
Carol.
Governor Haley, you are a very strong supporter of Israel. Do you believe the IDF operations in Gaza are disproportional to the October 7th attack on Israel, reprehensible as that was?
You know, I'm haunted by what happened on October 7th. And the reason I'm haunted is because 5 years ago, I gave a speech to the entire world at the UN. And I told them that we knew there were maps. And these maps were held by Hamas. And it showed that if they could break through the barrier, it was how they were going to kill as many Jews as fast as they could. And it happened. And when you look at the situation that happened, and for anybody that says, why should we care about Israel? And my opponents have said it's Israel's issue. No, it's our issue too. because 33 Americans were butchered that day. We have American hostages now as we speak. But Israel is a bright spot in a tough neighborhood. They're the tip of the spear when it comes to defeating terrorism. It has never been that Israel needs America. It has always been that America needs Israel. And on that horrific day, when they beheaded those people and burned those babies alive and took those girls out of the concert and raped them and dragged their naked bodies through the streets of Gaza, what did they say? Death to Israel, death to America. We have got to do three things when it comes to Israel. We need to give them whatever they need whenever they need it. We need to eliminate Hamas, finish them so they can never do this horrific stuff again. And we need to do whatever it takes to bring our hostages home. In order to eliminate Hamas, it requires them to go into Gaza. Hamas does not care about human life. They use women and children as human shields. There's a reason that they have all of their areas underneath hospitals and schools. I've been there. I've been in those tunnels. They're very sophisticated. That's probably where the hostages are being held now. Gazans would be so much better off without Hamas. But I know and I trust that Israel will do whatever it takes to make sure they save as many people as they can. You have to know the difference between terrorists and civilians. That's what civilized countries do. America's a civilized country. Israel's a civilized country. Hamas is not civilized. They don't value human life. And they keep trying to put people in harm's way because they don't want it to happen. What I will say is when everybody is putting the onus on Israel and on America to do something with helping the people of Gaza, where's Egypt? Where's Qatar? Where's Turkey? Where's Iran? Where are all the pro-Hamas countries that say they care? Why is it on Israel? Why aren't they getting Hamas to stop?
Where's Qatar?
Why are they forgiving that brutality?
He knows.
Let's put the accountability where it needs to be. Don't put it on Israel. Israel watched their people get butchered that day. If that was us, do you think we would do a ceasefire? Do you think we would stop? We would do whatever it takes to make sure that Americans were taken care of and that we had our say. And so I will tell you, I think Israel is doing what they have to make sure it doesn't happen again, because what did Hamas say? They're going to go back and do it again. They're not finished.
And I don't know what you mean by that.
Obviously, you're invested in UN, and that's in the capacity you went into the tunnels. Obviously, what's happening in Gaza, though, there was a horrific loss of civilian life going on as well, and a huge stratospheric loss. Two Israeli cabinet members came out this week, and they actually advocated for relocating people from Gaza out of Gaza, basically Palestinians out of Gaza, and that there are some in the Israeli government that support that. Would a President Haley support that? Would you support removing Palestinians from Gaza?
I don't think you have to remove Palestinians from Gaza. I think you have to remove Hamas from Gaza. But I think you also need to make sure that Israelis can feel safe again. Mm-hmm. And the way Israelis will feel safe, they're not opposed to Palestinians being in Gaza. They're opposed to terrorists being in Gaza. They're opposed to terrorists being at their doorstep. And so Israel doesn't want Gaza. I mean, if you look at what Hamas has done to Gaza, Israel doesn't want Gaza. But the Palestinian Authority has proven they have an inability to lead. And the reason they have an inability to lead is they allowed Hamas to come in and do all of this to the people of Gaza. So I don't think we remove Palestinians, but I think they have to have some sort of leadership that ensures to Israelis that they don't have to worry about terrorists living on their doorstep.
All right, Marcia Aarons is a retiree from Urbandale. Marcia, we're glad you're here tonight. A Republican, and I know you also say you're supporting Governor Haley. Go ahead.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Nikki. I just want to thank CNN and Aaron and Caitlin for having this town hall tonight, and Grandview for hosting it. Also, Nikki, thank you so much for all your time in Iowa. I really appreciate you.
I've enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Good. I am wondering how you would reach voters that are concerned that you are more of a war hawk versus a peace through strength leader.
It's a great question. First of all, I am the wife of a combat veteran who is deployed now
Boy,
on a year-long deployment.
What a planted question that was.
Any military family will
Nikki,
tell
are you going to blow everything up?
the last thing you want is for your loved one to go
Are
to
you a
war.
warlord, Nikki? That's what we really want to know.
My number one goal has always been preventing war. And let's talk about what's caused this. The rest of my opponents think that we shouldn't be in Ukraine, don't need to do anything with Ukraine. Trump, Ron, all of them has said, let's leave Ukraine. Let me tell you why Ukraine is important.
Shouldn't be in Ukraine. She going to send
First of
troops?
all, you should know at the United Nations, Ukraine was one of our good friends. They voted with us on almost everything. They supported all of our initiatives, whether I asked them to or not. But here you have this pro-American, freedom-loving country that was invaded by a thug. 500,000 people have died and been wounded because of Putin. Now, I don't think we should give cash to any country, friend or foe, because you can't follow it and you can't hold it accountable. I don't think we need to put troops on the ground in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians don't want it. They want to win this themselves. But I think we need to give them the equipment and the ammunition to win.
I don't know.
Why should we care about Ukraine? Anybody thinking that, that's a legitimate question for you to ask. And I am sorry that Biden and no member of Congress is explaining that to you, but I will, because you deserve it. When I was at the United Nations, I saw that terrorists, dictators, and thugs always tell you what they're going to do. They're amazingly transparent. Hamas said they were going to go into Israel. They did. China said they were going to take Hong Kong. We watched it. Russia invaded Ukraine. They told us they were going to. China says Taiwan is next. We better believe them. Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries, and that puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It has always been about preventing war.
Boy, oh boy.
We don't want our men and women to go have to fight. And so supporting Ukraine is actually preventing war and seeing it for what it is. And
Oh
Putin's
my
hit rock
aching
bottom.
head. This is
We
who
know
Trump
that. He's
wants as
lost
his VP.
87%
Oh
of the
my
troops that
God.
started the war.
Holy
They've
moly,
raised the
she is a
draft age in
warlord.
Russia to 65. They're getting drones from Iran and missiles from North Korea. We know they've hit rock bottom. But now let me tell you something else that's really important, Aaron. I told you about that brutality on October 7th in Israel, right? October 7th is Putin's birthday. Who's the happiest man in the world right now?
I don't know, man. She knows what
Putin.
Putin's birthday
Why?
is.
Because the U.S. and the West took all our eyes and our resources off of Ukraine, and what did we do? We started looking at Israel. And did Putin go and call Netanyahu in Israel? No,
Holy
not for 10
moly.
days. You know who he did call? Hamas. Invited them to Russia, and they held hands and said they were friends. See this for the connection that it is. China and Russia held hands before the Olympics and named themselves unlimited partners. There is an unholy alliance of China, Russia, and Iran bound together in their hatred against freedom, democracy, and above all things, the United States of America. Our job is to always prevent war and protect Americans. All right.
There's an axis of evil, guys.
Right back. We're
That
going to
is-
take a very brief break. Everyone watching at home,
Guys,
stay with us.
guys.
We'll be back in a moment with the Republican.
There is an axis of evil, and it's Iraq, Iran, and Chad. I looked that up on the map. Are we talking axis of evil here, guys? We're going there. Oh man, he's going to invade Poland next. I don't look. There you go. I mean, she's a warlord. I think immediately the question was, and from one of her supporters was Nikki Haley. I'm a supporter of yours. Thank you for spending so much time in Iowa. Would you mind letting people know, are you a warlord? Because people seem to think that you might be. So, and her answer was pretty much yeah. I mean, she seemed to suggest that should be okay with troops. She said, they want to get out of Ukraine is what she said. I don't know if she meant money. And then she said, well, I don't want to send money over there, but we can't have this. And then it turned from Ukraine to Israel. I don't, people might disagree with me, but I think Israel is more important. And Israel's never going to ask for troops or things like that. But I mean, this Ukraine money pit. I mean, I'm looking at DeSantis' answer compared to that. And this is who Trump wants as his VP, guys. Make no mistake. Nikki Haley, the warlord, is it warlords? It's warlords. Give me something to eat. Give me something to eat. Give me a chicken nugget over there. What do you got? Okay, babe, give me a chicken nugget. What do you give me some of those potatoes? I want to do something here. Warlords, more warlords. Okay, Nikki Haley's a warlord. All right, she's got it. Okay, she you know, I'm glad, guys. Aren't you glad that we don't have to say, Ron DeSantis? I'm a supporter of yours, Governor DeSantis. Have been for a long time. Can I just ask you a question? Can I just ask you a question? Are you a warlord? Does anybody get what I'm doing here? Saturday Night Live, Bill Clinton. Warlord. And they want to send the food over here. And Nikki Haley said, when I become chief warlord, president, I'm going to be sending, do you trust, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't trust her not to send troops over there. She seems like she's ready to go to war. She seems like she's ready to. Like with the Ukraine thing, I hear DeSantis say, look, we need to wrap this up, wrap it up, guys. We need to wrap it up, when DeSantis gets asked about Ukraine, he doesn't make promises he can't keep, like Vivek, and doesn't say things that make no sense, like just telling you what you want to hear. We're just gonna cut it off right now, cut it off. No, he's like, we're gonna wrap this up. I picture Dave Chappelle bringing out a sign when DeSantis is asked about Ukraine. Dave Chappelle bringing out a sign, wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up, okay? We're gonna. It needs to have an end game, okay? We're gonna set a with DeSantis and the Ukraine thing. I hear him say we're gonna have an end to this, okay? We're gonna have a decided end. I've been in Iraq. I remember the quagmire that was going on in Iraq with George W. Bush. We got an axis of evil, guys. It's Iraq, Iran, and Chad. And I remember he's been there, okay? DeSantis has been on the ground. He's worn the uniform. He understands this stuff. And he's like, we need to wrap this up. We need to have and have Europe pull their weight. They need, and we're going to cajole them into pulling their weight and contributing to this and this aggression, okay? I trust him that this is going to happen in short order after he becomes president. And then with DeSantis, he seals the deal so it doesn't keep happening too. That's what Nikki Haley. At that answer, oh my God, we're going to be in Ukraine forever with Trump's vice president, Nikki Haley. And you think Trump, by the way, would get us out of Ukraine? Are you kidding me? He'll send him more money. Really? Did he?
Ask you about something you said at a town hall in New Hampshire. You talked about the importance of New Hampshire and Iowa. We're here in Iowa. But you said about the primary process that while Iowa goes first, New Hampshire, quote, corrects it.
Oh my gosh.
She said it.
DeSantis said that was incredibly disrespectful to Iowans.
Of course he did.
A lot of
And of
people
course,
said
we are
it,
here
though.
in Iowa.
Not just
I'm just
DeSantis.
looking around at people's faces. Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to say?
Look, we have done 150 plus town halls. You got to have some fun too. So we're at this town hall. We had 700 people in New Hampshire.
I had 6
We're
beers.
cutting up, and yes, I said that. But keep in mind, I'm from an early state. South Carolina always knew that Iowa's going to be the first caucus, New Hampshire's going to be first in the nation, and South Carolina wanted to be first in the South. It was a pact. It's still a pact that the 3 states, at least on the Republican side, had, that we were going to keep that. But we banter against each other on different things. New Hampshire makes fun of Iowa. Iowa makes fun of South Carolina. It's what we do. So, I think the problem in politics now is it's just too serious and too dramatic. If we're having fun, I don't live, eat, and breathe politics all the time. I like to have fun too. And so if I'm hanging out with 700 people and we're trying to make jokes and have a good time, you should be able to do that
didn't reflect the lack of confidence in how you thought you would do here.
I would not sit here and in the cold, because it's cold here. I have been coming here
and tell you how I'm going to be a warlord.
Going to every part of Iowa, shaking every hand, answering every question, being the last person to leave at every one of these town halls. You are going to see me fight until the very end on the last day in Iowa. And I'm not playing in one state. I'm fighting in every state because I think everybody's worth fighting for. And so, yes, we're going to continue to be here. I mean, I've told people get used to this face, and I've been here over and over again. But if I didn't love Iowa, I wouldn't keep coming to Iowa. So, but if we're going to have fun, I'm probably going to say something funny in Iowa tomorrow about South Carolina or New Hampshire.
Are you
It's
having
the
fun
way to
yet,
just kind
guys?
of
I don't
not
know.
make everything so serious.
Is it fun?
All right, Denise.
Why?
Denise Haig is the
Why?
director of human
Oh,
resources at a
Gloria.
local arts center here in
We're being
Iowa, a
funny.
Republican from Waukee who says she's undecided. So Denise, go ahead.
Hi, Denise.
Nice to meet you, Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
In the spirit of fun, I want to tell you I'm loving your dress. by the
Oh,
way.
thank you.
My question is, do you see any inherent challenges to being president as a woman, or do you feel like we've evolved?
As we evolved.
Do you mean globally or do you mean domestically?
As a country.
As a country, I think America has been ready for a woman, but it has to be the right woman, right? I'm one of those, I don't think, and I think a lot of women will
You are
agree
Africa
to
if you
this.
go to the
We
Middle
don't
East.
support women just because they're women. I mean, we love to see women do well. I think women are rock stars. I love to see women do well. But a president's a big deal, and it's a serious issue. And I think what we've seen in politics for really a lot lately is they look at a label and they say, oh, we're going to get this label or we need this label. Well, that's what's gotten us into this mess. And trust me, like, I think you look at what Biden's done and he said, I want this kind of Supreme Court justice or I want this kind of vice president. That's a mistake. I do think America's ready for a female president. I do think that America's been ready, but it's got to be the right one. And they want to know it's somebody that's going to have fight. They want to know that it's going to have somebody that has moral clarity. They want to know that it's someone who has experience. I have been a 2-term governor that took a double-digit unemployment state and turned it into an economic powerhouse. I dealt with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Israel every single day that I was at the UN. And I took the kick me sign off of our backs, and America was respected again there. So is America ready for a female president? You bet they're ready for a female president, and I'm going to be the one that makes them proud.
Zachary Van Woordhuizen is a law student from Newton. He's an independent. He voted for Biden in 2020, but says, I believe that you plan to support Governor Haley in the caucuses. We'll see. I don't know what you've heard tonight, but go ahead with your questions.
Lots of Biden voters that support Haley, I've noticed. A lot of
Governor Haley, you have taken a vocally anti-Chinese stance in many of your campaign ads. Do you plan to continue this stance if elected, or will you try to work with China to solve the problems that have prompted such a stance?
At the United Nations, I dealt with China every day. And what frustrates me is you see Biden and Yellen sitting there trying to tell us that China is a competitor. China never saw us as a competitor. They always saw us as an enemy. And all you have to do is look at what China's done. They have completely infiltrated our country. They bought 400,000 acres of U.S. soil, most recently near Grand Forks Air Force Base, where our most sensitive drone technology is. They poured millions of dollars into our universities, stealing our research, spreading Chinese propaganda. You go and you look at, there's certain technologies we never want China to have because it builds up their military and threatens America. Yet the Biden administration approved 70% of it last year. The Trump administration approved more than that. Everybody got upset about this Chinese spy balloon, right? And rightfully so. What about the fact that 90% of our law enforcement drones are Chinese?
Remember that?
You've got Chinese police stations throughout our country. You've got a Chinese spy base going off our shores in Cuba. And you've got China building up their military at a scary pace. They now have 500 nuclear warheads. That's 100 more than they had last year. They have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 370 ships. They'll have 400 ships in 2 years. We won't even have 350 ships in 2 decades. They're doing artificial intelligence. They're doing cyber. They're doing space. They're doing hypersonic missiles. We've barely gotten started. And now China's the lead developer of neurostrike weapons engineered, bless you, to change the mental capabilities of military commanders and segments of the population. That's who we're dealing with. So yes, we are going to be tough on China, but do you stop talking to them? No. You actually keep your enemies close so you know what they're doing all the time. but you do let your enemies know what we expect of them. And the way we will deal with China is no more selling them any U.S. soil, and we take back the land they already purchased. We make sure that we go to all the universities and say, you either take foreign money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. And we tell them we're going to end all normal trade relations with them until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. And they're the ones sending it over.
Now, Ambassador, on this, and you as governor, I'm just looking at the numbers here. We were looking at more than $1.4 billion in Chinese investment came into South Carolina while you were governor. That time you were courting investment, you wanted that money to come in. But you just mentioned the drones being bought by the police stations, but you were actively courting that as well. There's a Chinese fiberglass manufacturer with Chinese ties to the Communist Party that opened a factory in your state while you were governor. So do you regret any of that? Was that worth it?
Well, I think you look, every governor in the country was trying to recruit Chinese companies 10 years ago. Every household has Chinese products in it. It shows how intertwined it's all become. But now we know what the threat is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it was less than 1% of what I recruited. I recruited a lot. We were known as the beast of the Southeast. Less than 1% was Chinese.
So you're not saying it's a mistake. You're just saying that your view of the situation has changed.
Well, now look at what we know about China that we didn't know 10 years ago. It's drastically different. When the reality is, presidents, Republican and Democrat, for too long thought that if we were nice to China, they'd want to be like us. China's never wanted to be like us. They want to be communists. They never should have gotten into the World Trade Organization back in 2001 when the U.S. helped them get in. But now let's not keep going down that path. Let's stop it. I fought China every day at the UN. We need to continue to do that now until we put them back in their place.
All right, we're going to take one more brief break, and we'll be right back with more from Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley right after this.
Oh, boy.
Sunday.
I don't know what all that was all about.
15 years later.
But I will tell you this. Don't mess with Texas. All right, I can actually skip ahead because I went back a little bit. Okay, guys. I mean, I want to go to the DeSantis clips here. But she's going to come back soon, and we're just going to wrap this up. There is going to be 5 minutes left in this here. So, I mean, she's just cleaning up messes. I mean, to have to clean up a slavery mess, to have to clean up a word salad and having a slavery gaffe that, like, somebody asked you what the Civil War was about, and you couldn't, like, bring yourself to say slavery, and they said, did it have anything to do with slavery? And she goes, what do you want me to say about slavery? And then they ask her, and she's like, oh, well, we talk about racism. And then she's like, well, there was a racist attack, and then the media wanted to make it about racism. And I'm like, well, didn't you just say it was a racist attack? So I took down the Confederate flag and then made everything better. And it still doesn't answer the question about slavery. I mean, Ron DeSantis' question was just succinct. The Republican Party was formed to fight against slavery. We were the anti-slavery party. Abraham Lincoln was the guy that signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The Civil War was fought to stop the expansion of slavery into the Western states. And Republicans should be proud that we're the party that stood up and stopped slavery. Boom. All right. Yes, Chris is smart. I don't know if you're one of my heroes, one of my haters, or one of the be like, okay, Chris is gay. Harris is a little gay. America's so funny. Chris is smart. Okay, I like it. All right. Dude, do not mess with my midlife crisis, okay? All right, this is my midlife crisis, and I'll do with it what I want. I'll do it with my hair what I want, all right? So, she's cleaning up a slavery mess, okay? And then she was cleaning up a mess about she got 2 messes she had to clean up. 2 messes, okay? A mess with the slavery thing, and then a mess with the saying that New Hampshire cleans up Iowa's mess. I mean, New Hampshire cleans up Iowa's mess. That's what she said. She basically said, hey, Iowa, you're going to make a mess. And it wasn't just DeSantis that called her out on it. It was Bob Vanderplatz, a couple other people. I think the governor called her out on it. But basically, like Trump saying, Iowan voters are stupid, or whatever he said. All right, let's go back to the
Haley.
fire.
So, Governor, you've talked about being a mom, even here, and I know it's a crucial part of your identity and who you are. You've got 2 children.
Last year, your daughter got married, and just recently you dropped your son off for his final year at Villanova. Okay. So you posted a picture of that moment that I saw actually in a People magazine article. And the hashtags were, "When did my little one grow up?" and "Proud mom." And, I'm a mother myself now, and, you can look at anyone, right? You see your little child and then boom, and it just happens so fast. I was wondering, as you think about being president of the United States, what makes you the most proud as a mother?
Oh, I mean, like I get emotional thinking about my kids. When my daughter was walking down the aisle, I still see her in pigtails. So when I say, when did they grow up? So much of it, they're just good kids. My daughter is a pediatric nurse at the Children's Hospital. My son, like I said, is a senior in college, and they're just good kids. And, they've grown up in a public life. And the one thing Michael and I always wanted was for them to feel very normal. And that's what I'm most proud of. We always, even when I was governor, we had dinner tonight together 5 nights out of the week. I wanted the kids to know that we were having family dinner. And Sundays were, our special days. And Fridays were Haley Family Fun Nights. We always tried to keep it very normal. I never told my kids, I always said, you don't have to do anything but go to the Christmas tree lighting and the State of the Address. And everything else they could decide if they wanted to go. And so having them grow up as normal and as grounded as they are, they're humble, they're respectful, they're hardworking, and they're just good people. And my husband and I always said, if we can make sure they have a faith and a conscience, we will have done our job. And we have done our job. I'm incredibly proud of them.
Oh, you answered one, all right.
Catherine Duffy is a professor of music here at Grandview, and it's been great to be here these past couple of days in your school. A Republican from Ankeny who says that she supports you. Catherine, go ahead.
Hi, Catherine.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Ambassador Haley. Could you please explain to us your rationale for pardoning Mr. Trump when he's been associated with so much division and chaos in our country?
When you talk about a pardon, the person has already been found guilty. When it comes to President Trump, he still has to face and we'll find out whether he's guilty or not. But if we're talking about a pardon, you're assuming he's guilty because nobody gets pardoned if you're not guilty. For me, it's not about guilt or innocence. It's about what's in the best interest for the country.
I think guilt or innocence matter.
And I don't think our country will move forward with an 80-year-old president sitting in jail that allows our country to continue to be divided. We have to move on past that. And so I honestly do believe, just like they did with Nixon, you've got to say what's in the best interest of the country. And I think pardoning Trump and moving on is in the best interest of our country if we're going to heal and if we're going to get back together and get out of the chaos.
Jeff Porter is a lawyer at Iowa's largest law firm. I said, what an appropriate name you have when I saw this. I mean, Jeff Porter. Okay, from West Des Moines, a Republican who says he's supporting you. Jeff, go with your question.
Hi, Jeff.
Ambassador Haley, great to see you again.
Nice
and great to see you last Saturday in Carver Hawkeye Arena watching the Iowa Hawkeye win.
So much fun. So much fun.
And bonus time with Ambassador Branstad.
Yes.
So my question for you tonight to wrap this up is, as president,
all right, wrap it up.
How will you work to better unite America after the past 16 years of such divisive politics? Thank you.
It's a great question. And the tone at the top matters, right? When I talked about how we could have been completely devastated in South Carolina with the shooting of Walter Scott, how we could have been completely devastated in South Carolina with the murder of those 9 amazing souls at Mother Emanuel Church, how we could have been divided on so many other things. South Carolina always held strong and held together. And it was because I knew I served and represented all of them, not just a select group, all of them. And that means I didn't think of any of the South Carolina as good or as bad or as right or as wrong. I just knew I needed to over-communicate, tell them everything I knew. And that's how I'll be as a president. You'll know more than you want to know because I think it's important that you know everything.
I don't know if I want to know everything.
And then tell you about where we go and move forward. But more than that, on my first day, you start by controlling what you can control first. And that is, I will focus on my agencies. We'll replace the head of every agency. whether they're doing a good job or not, to freshen it up. I did this as governor. The second thing I did was I sent people into every agency to clean it up, pull down old programs, pull down any old regs, pull down bureaucracy, get it working again, and mission focused so that it's not too big. In some cases, and get rid of problem children. Trust me, agencies have problem children. In some cases, we tweaked agencies. In other cases, we gutted agencies. And then I required them to start doing 90-day benchmarks. I wanted them to show a return on investment to the taxpayer so that they saw what it was like to work again. And then we saw that they were spending money because they thought they weren't going to get the same amount the next year. So I put all the spending online for every taxpayer to see. And then I incentivized them to give money back to the taxpayers. And magic happened, because they started to compete to see who could be the most effective and most efficient. And then I went to my legislature and said, it's your turn. And I started by giving them a couple of things that were easy so they could remember what it was like to win again. We need to do that with our Congress. They need to know what it's like to win again together. And then you give them things that are harder and harder. That's important. We have to get government used to producing and giving results again. And I'll do it by starting with myself and starting with our agencies and getting them to work for the people again. And then going to Congress and saying, you know what? No more peacocking on TV. No more sitting there and pointing fingers to anybody else. The buck starts here, and it's time to get things done for the American people. And it's an amazing thing. I have called out Republicans. I've called out Democrats. I've praised Republicans. I've praised Democrats. Legislators love to be praised, and they hate to be called out. It's a magic tool that has always worked for me. Whether I was calling out China or Russia at the UN, they didn't like to be called out. No one does. But when you do it for the right reasons and you know who you serve, that's when you get things moving again.
All right. Well, Governor Haley, thank you so much for being here in this room and, of course, speaking to the voters here in Iowa. Thanks so much to all of you for sitting here through this evening and being part of these town halls. And thank you so much to our hosts at Grandview University.
All right.
Governors Haley and DeSantis, of course, are going to be back for the final Republican primary debate before the Iowa caucuses. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will host right here on CNN January 10th at 9. And right now,
Yes,
Philip and Laura Coates will take it away.
Donald Trump will be over on Fox News with Brett Baer answering very hard questions because he's too good for you, you little frogs and peons and you disgusting people, very disgusting. Unlike my friend Jeffrey Epstein, who I didn't like him. He was not a good guy, but he was my friend and he was very, very wealthy, very successful. I had to get him out of Mar-a-Lago. He liked him young. I didn't like him at all. He was a very bad man. He was my friend. But let me tell you, he had the best caviar on his plane. He's best. I flew on it 5 times, but I never went to the island. Okay, I didn't ever. He was a very good man. I did not like him very much, but so yeah. I mean, oh geez, this is a 6-minute segment. But really, I mean, you got over here. No, this is a good point here. Okay, actually,
closely associated with Epstein, and particularly Epstein's scandals, is, I think, inarguably Donald Trump.
It is.
Back in 2019, when Epstein was arrested for sex trafficking charges, there was renewed interest in his past misdeeds, including, crucially, that he had been nailed for this before and had pled guilty in 2008 for what prosecutors called soliciting an underage prostitute. But it was that sweetheart deal that Epstein received as a result that became an issue.
The highly unusual plea agreement allowed billionaire hedge fund manager Jeffrey Epstein to spend a mere 13 months in county jail, when the federal government may have had enough evidence to put him in prison for life. This, according to police and prosecution documents obtained by NBC News. And tonight, there's a new focus on the prosecutor who helped arrange that deal a decade ago. Now, the Secretary of Labor.
Okay, remember this? The number one example of the elite lack of accountability for this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, is the fact that a U.S. attorney hammered out this plea deal that was just unheard of, that just basically let him get away with it and then go back to reoffending.
He's right.
The guy that gave him that deal, Donald Trump appointed him, Alex Acosta, in his cabinet.
Yeah.
The guy who gave the Epstein deal.
Yeah.
He got a cabinet position because he was appointed by Donald Trump.
Yep.
And it was a big scandal at the time.
Yeah,
Acosta ultimately resigned in 2019 amid renewed interest in the Epstein case, although he defended the plea deal until the end. A lengthy investigation from Trump's Department of Justice ultimately found that Acosta exhibited poor judgment, although it cleared him of any official misconduct.
No, Trump was not
now, around the time that Epstein was negotiating that deal, the one that basically allowed him to more or less get away scot-free and go back to reoffending, he was represented by a number of high-profile attorneys, including former counsel at O.J. Simpson, Alan Dershowitz, and former Bill Clinton investigator Ken Starr. You may remember those two men for a different reason. Back in 2020, Donald Trump brought both of them on to assist his legal defense during his first impeachment trial. Get me the Epstein defense team.
Look at this.
We should note both men have defended their actions.
And he was acquitted by the papers. No,
Dershowitz also declined to comment to NBC News about these new Epstein documents. And not long before that impeachment trial that they defended him in, remember, Jeffrey Epstein famously died in federal custody in a federal detention center here in New York City. That was the incident. It sparked countless Epstein didn't kill himself memes that went everywhere in the conspiratorial part of the internet. It transformed the sex offender into the current status of kind of fulcrum of right-wing conspiracy theories worldwide. Now, investigators later said Epstein was not killed, that it was in fact a suicide, and that it occurred amid, quote, significant misconduct at the federal prison. A federal prison under the purview of the Department of Justice, which at the time was run by, let me see if I have this right here. Oh, yeah, Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr. Bill Barr called Epstein's death a perfect storm of screw-ups, sort of a passive way to describe a debacle that happened under your authority. So Donald Trump's Justice Department was overseeing Jeffrey Epstein when he died in prison. Of course, the real link here is the personal relationship between Donald Trump and Epstein himself, the one you see on your screen right now.
Where's the lip bite?
Trump has denied any connection to Epstein's crimes. He declined to comment to NBC News about these new documents, but it's undeniable. It's just an established fact. The two men were once friendly. Back in 1992, before Epstein's first arrest, the two men were captured on video, partying at Trump's Mar-a-Lago golf home, and crucially, leering at women together. 1 decade later, Trump went on the record with New York Magazine to praise Epstein in these words, and I will quote them. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do.
Very young.
And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. That's a hell of a quote, isn't it? About a guy who we would later find out was trafficking girls, sexual abuse. And though Trump later claimed he and Epstein had a falling out, his well wishes didn't end there, okay? Just listen to how Donald Trump responded from the White House briefing room after being asked about Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest.
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
I wish her. This is the one. They had just had the Alex Acosta scandal. Everyone knows what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump, as president from the podium, says, oh, yeah, knew her socially, wish her well, rooting for her, hope she's doing fine. Again, to be clear, at the time, Ghislaine Maxwell was in prison after being charged federally with conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors. But even when given the opportunity to walk those comments back, Trump refused.
Her friend or boyfriend
Epstein
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that?
Oh, so you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish you well.
Administration, dude. It was your administration, Trump. I mean, guys, you have to go to MSNBC to find this. I mean, it's, what they'll do, where's the lip bite? There it is. Oh, yeah, look at that babe over there. Oh, yeah, she's pretty young, isn't she? You think she's 18? Oh, no, she ain't 18. I mean, these are buddies here, dude. Don't give me the Trump wasn't exonerated by the papers. He was in the Epstein files. If DeSantis' name was anywhere in any context in those files, would you be going, oh, no, DeSantis didn't do anything wrong? You know, the Mario Nawfal spaces that are like that. There's some kind of foreign psyop going on with those spaces. I'm telling you, they censor you immediately. You bring any of this stuff up. You can talk about Clinton, you can talk about Dershowitz, so you just can't connect them to Trump. And then there's this mythology that Trump had Epstein cast out of Mar-a-Lago. It was like God casting out Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. You're cast out. He was so enraged by the sins of Jeffrey Epstein that he cast him out and went to the authorities. Well, it's not exactly what happened. Trump was contacted by the authorities about Epstein, and he figured he better cooperate. And the authorities that contacted him said Trump was not completely forthcoming with them about his relationship with Epstein. So this whole idea, and a religion is based around it. QAnon, a religion basically, has been based around this, casting Trump as this messiah figure who saves children. Oh, he exposed Jeffrey Epstein. We wouldn't have known anything if it wasn't for Trump. So cut the BS with this, guys. I don't care if it's Chris Hayes saying it or whatever. Nobody on Fox News is going to have the balls to say this, but they damn well should. They damn well should. This is not cool, all right? He says gross things about his daughter as well. He barges in on changing rooms, according to people. He's got sexual assault claims out the yin yang. He's got one next week he's got to deal with. This is the guy that we want to nominate? Are you out of your freaking mind? Look, you might not, Fox News might not care. You freaking Q idiots might think that the papers exonerated him and all this bizarre echo chamber that you've got on Twitter with Dom Luker, breaker of narratives. I'll accuse Obama's wife of being a man and Obama being gay, but when it comes to Epstein, no, Trump didn't do anything. Trump exposed him. You know, all this freaking nonsense, and it just gets echoed around, and then it goes through the Mario Nawfal chamber, and I'm wondering what is going on here? What's at play here? This whole QAnon psyop set up to cast Trump as this. He's saving children from Hillary Clinton who might just want to drink their blood, perhaps, and just very bizarre things. Who's behind all this? Because that's not reality, guys. Trump appointed Alex Acosta, the prosecutor that gave Epstein the sweetheart deal of his life and allowed him to continue molesting young underage girls. And then he got charged in New York for this. All right, and then it became a scandal and then we didn't know about all this stuff to this extent when Trump was elected president in 2016. We found out about it during his presidency, and now we see this. I mean, this guy is chummy with him. I'm sick of this crap, guys.
Trump has denied any connection to Epstein's crimes.
Yeah,
he declined to comment to NBC News about these new
Look at
documents,
him,
but it's
look at him.
undeniable.
Pretty
It's just an
good,
established
pretty
fact.
good.
The two men are once
I
friendly.
did not like him. I did not like him at all. He was just a guy in the neighborhood. I mean, it's like Obama when you talk about Bill Ayers. Like, oh, he was just a guy in the neighborhood. But I mean, these guys are buddies. These guys are buddies here. He flew on the plane. Anybody else but Trump that flew on the plane is disgusting. But Trump didn't really fly on the plane. But yeah, he did fly on the plane. But when he flew on the plane, it was okay because it wasn't to the pedo island. He was exonerated, Chris. He didn't go to the island, you stupid idiot. And I get these angry Trump supporters just harassing my ex account all day long. Go away. Now, I've blocked so many. I just can't. I mean, this just is what it freaking is. This is not a Democrat scheme. This is not a psyop. These are not AI generated images. All right. This is just what happened. So, but you go into these spaces, they don't want to talk about it. All right. So anyway, did you see DeSantis tonight? Did you see him tonight, guys? I mean, this guy. Eliminate the IRS.
No income tax. You have said that you believe other states should follow Florida's lead on that. If you were president, would you eliminate the federal income tax?
Oh, I mean, can I stop dreaming? I mean, like, wouldn't you like to eliminate the IRS and have, what I would want is I think I would eliminate the IRS, have a single rate, and just do like a flat tax. I think that would be the ideal tax system to be able to do, take away the distortions. And what happens is, Florida's a good example of this. We have low tax and we cut taxes, and yet we attract more investment and our economic base expands. So I run these big budget surpluses where we're paying down debt by lowering rates. I think you look at some of the other states that are high tax states, they tax, they cause businesses to flee and individuals to flee. Then they go back to the well and they tax more, and it's like a vicious cycle. So low rates, broad base, ultimately is the best and most conducive to economic growth.
But you would push to eliminate the federal income tax.
I want to eliminate the IRS, and I would like a flat, one single rate, flat tax. Is obviously I would only do it if it was lower taxes for everybody, but that is the ideal tax system.
No, the flat tax. No, it's not that it's the flat. The flat tax is a tax on income, but he's talking about abolishing the IRS. Is what he's talking about. That there doesn't need to be. I mean, really, how free is it that every American citizen at this time of year, we have to gather up all of our papers, put together every little piece of income, the money I got from Twitter, the money I got here, there, and whatever, every last dime, of course, okay? And then report it to a government agency. And then they can poke and prod at me and decide what I get to keep and what I get back and stuff like that. That's not really freedom, guys. I mean, you should be able to just earn an income, all right, and not have to report every last one of these little details. Now, how does I'll look this up. Look this up. The flat tax, okay? The flat tax applies the same rate to every taxpayer, regardless of income, and allows no deductions or exemptions. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I like the sound of that. The opposite of a flat tax is a progressive tax, where taxation rises with it. Well, I think what it would do is that the IRS would be abolished there. I mean, he said he wants to abolish the IRS. There you go. Rather than a progressive tax where you get taxed more the more you are. So a single national income tax rate with no deductions. Okay, and would abolish the IRS. Okay, so there you go. There you go. Flat tax, abolish the IRS. What agency would be in charge of it? I don't know how it would work, the logistics, but there would be no IRS. Let's do it on the honesty system. How about that? I mean, just how about this? I'll just cut you a check for what? 10? What do you want? Is 10% good enough for God? Can it be good enough for the government? I mean, what do they need? How much do they need, really? I mean, for their redistribution programs. I mean, I don't know. But here you go. You've got a candidate who is just fantastic, and he's on his game. He is, I mean, guys. Oh, and here we'll wrap it up with this. He called out Trump for being a pro-choice lib. All right, let's go.
She is from Winterset, Iowa. She's a Republican who says that she is supporting you in this race. Cheryl, what's your question?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, should abortion rights be controlled by the federal or the state governments?
Well, thanks for the question, and thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Well, clearly, states have the primary role in this because that's what it was all of American history until 1973. So you have states like Iowa that have enacted heartbeat bill. Florida has enacted a heartbeat bill. Other states have done other things. And so that's just, I think, where the country is right now. So we'll be somebody that will defend particularly the rights of states to be able to enact pro-life protections. Now, you have a difference of opinion in this primary because Donald Trump has said that pro-life protections, even at the state level, are a, quote, terrible thing. And he said that in relation to bills like what Iowa did, the heartbeat bill. Now, this is a guy that was at the March for Life in January of 2020, and he said that all life was a gift from God. He said the unborn was made in the image of God. He said that there should be protections. That's what he was saying when he was president at the March for Life. Now he's saying it's a terrible, terrible thing. So how do you reconcile those two views? Did he flip-flop? Did he not believe it at the time? But then to go even further, he actually has said, elevate this issue to the federal government. What he wants to do is find a time. I think he floated like 18 or 20 weeks, have that be the limit, but then override any protections that states have done that are more than that. Well, that is not going to be advancing the cause of life. And so I think for pro-life voters in Iowa, Donald Trump is taking positions that are way different than what he professed to believe when he first ran for president in 2016.
Do you think Donald Trump is not pro-life?
Of course not. I mean, when you're saying that pro-life protections are a terrible thing, by definition, you are not pro-life. When you say that you want to have a federal law at 18 weeks or 20 weeks that would override a state like Iowa that has enacted pro-life protections, that would mean more abortions, not less abortions, because very few abortions are happening that late anyways. So he has flip-flopped on this issue. I don't know if it's because of political convenience or this is all where he always believed in. But here's the thing. Some issues are pretty fundamental. How do you flip-flop on something like the sanctity of life?
And Trump won't get his decrepit body on the debate stage. So I know it's getting late. Let's see a little bit of the post analysis, what they said on CNN.
What your takeaways were, but what do you think the strengths were of each of these candidates, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis?
Well, I thought DeSantis delivered one of the best performances I've seen him give in the entire campaign. I think he's really improved over the last several weeks, made no mistakes. It was center-cut conservative content on immigration and other issues. So I thought he had an incredibly strong night. I think on Nikki Haley, where she always shines, head and shoulders above everyone, in my opinion, is on foreign policy. She knocked that topic out of the park. I think for people who have been arguing that they're not hitting Donald Trump hard enough, they put that to bed tonight, because I thought both DeSantis and Haley came and whacked Donald Trump pretty hard on a number of topics. What I was most surprised at was that they didn't really whack each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, DeSantis in particular, it was like, where's this guy been? Usually he's cold toward the audience and kind of warm toward Donald Trump in this weird way. It was reversed this time.
Yeah.
He was warm with the audience.
Yeah.
And he was cold-blooded going after Donald Trump.
That's what you got to do,
where's
man.
this guy been? If this guy had been around for the past couple of months, he might have done something different. I thought he was. I could not understand why anybody thought that the Ron DeSantis we saw in these debates would have ever been anything. Tonight, you understand what the potential was, though I think it's largely been wasted. And Nikki Haley was Nikki Haley. She's always great.
Listen, Nikki Haley is generally always the smartest person in the room, save for CNN's Erin Burnett, who is there with her. She has a command of the facts, and she always is able to work her biographical experience to show her leadership. When I was at the UN, I was in Gaza. When I was governor, I did X, Y, and Z. She shows that she looks presidential when she talks about serious policy. No, I would say performance-wise, it probably wasn't her strongest night, but she always wins on the substance. And Ukraine is going to be a very key issue in this GOP primary. There's a very definitive split. Donald Trump will not continue aid to Ukraine. He is not going to give aid to Zelensky's government. Ron DeSantis gave kind of a vague answer when Caitlin pushed him on it. Nikki Haley was very definitive. She will continue to support
everything to Ukraine.
On DeSantis, I think it was probably one of his strongest performances. He really honed in on an argument that I think will resonate with voters against Donald Trump, which is to say he made these promises for 4 years and didn't do them. What I say you could take to the bank and I will do. People will listen to that, and I think it'll break through.
Yeah, one thing that I think is clear is that campaigning in 99 counties and from morning till night does have an effect. And I think what you saw in DeSantis is growth as a performer. He was not a good performer at the beginning of the campaign, much, much better tonight. And if there are late deciding caucus attendees in Iowa, this is a timely time for it. I don't know, when you said he was cold-blooded in going after Trump, he was cool-blooded, I think. There were some topics that he would not address, nor would Haley for that matter, but and she was, as we've come to expect. I mean, she's very, very orderly in her presentation. She always has 3 or 4 points. This is what I would do, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it it projects a kind of command that has helped her in the debates, and I think it helped her tonight. We'll get to some of the
So
downside
cold-blooded,
of all that.
cold-blooded or cool-blooded? Hold on, let's play it. Let's roll the tape. Let's
beat
see
him
what
up
he
on
said.
abortion, beat him up on immigration.
Go ahead, Van.
I was just saying, like, I was surprised. He basically called him a flip-flopper on abortion, said he was weak and ineffective on immigration. I was like, this was tough stuff. Now, to your point, he could have gone harder, but before he was hugging him like a teddy bear every time.
My point is this, yes, he was on those issues. He's not of course, he's not pro-life. I mean, he took shots that he has never taken before, and it's clear that they recognize that they need to get some of these Trump-oriented voters to swing back his way in this race. My point is just, whenever he was asked about Trump's conduct relative to January 6th or some of the other issues that have gotten him into legal issues, he took a long way around and not answer.
To Van's point, though, calling a fellow Republican not pro-life in Iowa, that's about the meanest thing you could say. I would expect the Trump campaign will respond to that very, very quickly.
He did, though, take the issue of January 6th. If you listen carefully to what he said about the strategic argument about why we should nominate someone other than Trump, he effectively said that January 6th is going to make it hard for the country to reelect Donald Trump as president. And so if you really wanted to parse it out, he went there on that topic. He didn't say it as blatantly as perhaps some people who care about that issue a lot want him to, but the argument was clear. The Democrats are going to wrap this around Donald Trump's neck, and it will prevent him from being president.
I thought it was interesting the way he did it, though. He said, you know, you have this left-wing Democratic jury, 12 jurors, you know. So he basically at once embraced the idea that Trump was being persecuted, and at the same time said, but this is a liability. When he was asked about a second Trump term, he said, well, you saw what happened in the midterm elections. We did terribly. It's going to be bad for Republicans. But he never said what the second term would be like in terms of the lives of the American people.
And on Nikki Haley, I mean, she actually went down the same road on Trump, basically saying he comes with all this baggage. He's too emotional. It's going to be too difficult for him to govern without coming with all this other stuff that's not so great. They're both working in the same lane here.
They are working in the same lane, and they're still towing a line. But I did think an interesting line from Nikki Haley was when she said, I used to tell Donald Trump, you are your own worst enemy, reminding people she was a presidential advisor to him as UN ambassador, somebody that he handpicked to be in that role and who did speak truth to him about his own actions or his shortcomings. I thought that was a powerful moment that will resonate with some folks. But again, there is a limit to how far either of these two are going to go in actually criticizing Donald Trump. And I think today was the furthest we've seen them go.
All right, let's listen to what you're just talking about there.
I personally
think
President Trump was the right president at the right time.
Okay,
I agree
guys.
with a lot of his policies. But the reality is,
I'm going to wrap it up here.
Rightly or wrong.
There you go. You got the reaction. I mean, geez, you had praise from whatever the first guy was, Van Jones. Man, I really kind of like watching these guys better than Fox News. I can't stand Fox News. I can't stand the sight of those bozos. Jesse Waters and Brett Baer and Hannity, they're just, I'm watching CNN and going like, man, I'm kind of like liking these guys a little better. I get it. They're libs. David Axelrod is Obama's guy. I mean, Van Jones, Obama's guy. But I mean, they're saying like, look, where has this Ron DeSantis been? He's finally hitting Trump, and he's finally hitting him hard. And that's what we need. More of that. More of that. Come on, Iowa. He's going to win Iowa too. If there wasn't this Trump cult going on, would this even be in question? They've done the propaganda polls. They're trying to say Nikki Haley's beating Ron DeSantis. Guys, you're being fed a load of crap. Believe what your eyes tell you, okay? Don't believe the nonsense, all right? Believe what you know. And Ron DeSantis crushed it tonight. He was gone. Trump is not pro-life. He's never been pro-life. He does whatever is convenient at the time. He's a pragmatist. He does whatever is convenient at the time. And now who he really is coming out. So I hope you enjoyed this live stream. Please like and share. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And friend me if you're watching on Facebook. My name's Chris Nelson at Reopen Chris. And I will be live streaming the debate next week. And we are like, what, 12 days away? 11 days away from Trump's defamation trial, where they will decide how much he owes Eugene Carroll, who said he sexually assaulted her, and he's got to pay her money. Oh yeah, we're also 11 days away from the Iowa caucus, which Ron DeSantis is going to win, guys. He is going to win. And then all you Trump people that have been, oh, Chris, look at the polls, just give up, just sanctimonious, just give up. No, he's not. Give up. Give up is not in this guy's arsenal. It's not a word he knows. All right? That's a winner right there, guys. This is Chris Nelson. Thanks for watching.